Chapter 876. Tian Luo Palace. When Yu Yang returned to Tong Tian Tower, the first person he wanted to see was not anyone else but Fourth Mother. It was a good thing that he got to know Pandora in the Valley of Desire, but when he thought about how he was almost killed by her disaster divine power and the Law of Desire, he felt a little scared. If he could not come back, what would happen to Fourth Mother, Bing Er, and the others? How sad would Wu Xia and Qian Qian be? Of course, all those assumptions were not valid. Just thinking about the situation back then, Yu Yang's heart throbbed as if he needed someone to comfort him. Who could release the negative emotions in Yu Yang's heart the best? Wu Xia, Qian Qian, Fallen Flowers, Inan, Sky Law, Yu Yu, and so on. Anyone of them could do. Even Bing Er, Shuang Bauer, Nyo, these little Lolas that still needed Yu Yang to take care of with him by his side, they would jump around, laugh, and play around. Even if they didn't know how to comfort him, Yu Yang's heart would automatically return to a good state. However, there was no doubt that the person who could motivate Yu Yang the most and help him get rid of his negative emotions was Fourth Mother. The soft and weak Fourth Mother was as gentle as water, quiet and virtuous. She was born with a kind motherly nature. Even if she did not say anything and only looked at Yu Yang, she could also let him feel her firm support. That kind of confidence, that kind of encouragement could not be described with words. As long as Yu Yang saw Fourth Mother, he would automatically know what he should do. As long as he saw her, Yu Yang's heart would always feel warm. He felt like a homeless child who had returned home. No matter what kind of blow he received outside, or what kind of worries he had, they would all disappear without a trace in an instant. Yu Yang returned to the garden. Coincidentally, they saw a drunken cat coming out of the teleportation portal as well. Both of them were stunned. What a coincidence. You came back at a bad time. Wu Xia and Qian Qian have already accompanied Bing Er to comprehend the ancient runes. Yu Yu's gone to visit her teacher. As for the others, they are busy cultivating in the stairway to heaven. No one has time to accompany you. Drunken Cat reacted quickly. Before Yu Yang could speak, she added, "Don't look at me. I don't have time either. His Majesty's birthday is coming up soon. I have to come back and prepare. I'm free." The little panda, Nyo, was afraid that Yu Yang would be disappointed, so she ran over obediently and hugged Yu Yang's arm. She looked up at him and said, "Shuang and I will accompany you. We are both free." "Good girl." Yu Yang picked Nyo up and gave her a loud kiss on her smooth forehead. "Go to your homework and play all day. Didn't you say you would come back to study with Shuang?" Drunken Cat was like a strict mother. The little panda girl was so scared that she stuck out her tongue and did not dare to pester Yu Yang anymore. She hurriedly ran in and prepared to find Yu Shuang first. After she finished her homework for today, she would think of a way to sneak out to play with her brother. At the corner, she even stopped and made a secret gesture to Yu Yang, indicating that she would wait for her. Only when she saw Yu Yang nodding his head did she happily jump in. Drunken Cat saw this and was both annoyed and amused. "How old are you? Playing with kids?" Yu Yang retorted with a smile. "Only those with a child's heart will not grow old. His Majesty's birthday? Can I join?" Drunken Cat snorted softly. "There's no place for you. If His Majesty didn't invite you, you can't shamelessly come uninvited. Otherwise, you will only cause trouble for others. If not for Fourth Mother living here, it would have a negative impact on His Majesty's reputation if you kept coming." Yu Yang pretended to be confused. What negative impact? Drunken Cat almost used her hands to strangle him to death. In the end, she tried her best to control herself. Anyway, it's not good. Who doesn't know that you are a playboy in the Soaring Dragon Empire? Yu Yang was furious. Hey, His Majesty has 3,000 beauties in his harem. That old man Jun Wu Yu has 3 palaces, 6 courtyards, and 72 concubines. Compared to them, what am I? I'm not even trash. Moreover, in Soaring Dragon Empire or Tong Tian Tower, which emperor doesn't have more than 100 women? Compared to them, I am a pure and faithful child. This was the guy from another world defending himself. You are a pure and faithful child? Drunken Cat almost fainted. Compared to other kings, I really dare to say yes. Yu Yang's skin was thicker than the city walls. quibbling was nothing. You, how can you be compared to others? When drunken cat heard this, she suddenly became angry. It's fine if those stinky men are playboys, but you should be different. You should be a good example for everyone. Teh, if that's a good example, I might as well not be one. Yu Yang waved his hands disdainfully. What? Drunken cat stared at Yu Yang angrily. I just want to remind you that I'm also one of those stinky men that you're talking about. Yu Yang raised his hand and replied weakly. Can stinky men be playboys? Drunken cat grabbed this key point and questioned. Why can't they? Yu Yang blinked his eyes and asked back. You're really infuriating. Drunken cat saw this brat's sudden change in attitude and almost fell over. She pushed Yu Yang away and rushed to leave, shouting unhappily, Don't talk to me again. I can't be bothered with you. This girl. Yu Yang scratched the back of his head. He suddenly felt that this domineering sister was a little strange. She was not like this usually. Could it be that something happened? There was no one around. Otherwise, he would definitely ask clearly. When Yu Yang returned to Fourth Mother's residence, he saw that she was saying goodbye to someone. He was a little curious. Who was looking for Fourth Mother? Fourth Mother turned around and saw Yu Yang. She was immediately happy. Her mood was extremely good. She asked Yu Yang to sit down with a face full of smiles. She gently combed his long hair and said happily, After the discussion of the elders, we finally decided on a date. If there is no news of the engagement for too long, it would be unfair to Wu Xia and Qian Qian. Of course, you youngsters have your own ideas. If you don't want to have a wedding in public, we will also agree. However, you have to meet with the elders and settle the matter. It's not that we don't trust you guys, but us elders all hope to be able to have children and grandchildren as soon as possible. The war outside will never end. Tong Tian Tower is peaceful now, so you guys should have a wedding. In the future, having a baby would be perfectly justifiable. How do you guys handle the wedding? The customs of each clan are different, so we don't care about this. Anyway, it's a matter for you youngsters. You guys can decide how to do it, whether it's simple or according to etiquette. We just want to confirm it. When Yu Yang heard this, he knew that he couldn't avoid it. He could only nod, seeing that he had agreed. Fourth Mother was so happy that she couldn't help but hug him into her embrace. Her tears fell down one by one. San Fourth Mother's biggest wish in this life is to see you grow up, marry a wife, and have children. If you can bring back a baby for me in these 2 years, then Fourth Mother will have no more regrets. She originally thought that she would have to spend a lot of effort to get him to agree. Who knew that he would agree the moment she said it? She was pleasantly surprised. Why did he become so obedient after coming back from the heaven realm? Fourth Mother's heart moved, and she understood a little. She immediately pulled Yu Yang over and wiped away the tears at the corner of her eyes. She looked at him with her wet eyes. San did something happen in heaven realm? Tell me, you can't hide it from me. Yu Yang smiled. Actually, it's nothing, just a little accident. But it's okay. He told Fourth Mother about his experiences in the Valley of Desire and the Valley of Beasts. Through this kind of confession, the little bit of negative emotions that had originally appeared in Yu Yang's heart instantly vanished, turning into nothingness. Fourth Mother was pleasantly surprised when she heard this. She couldn't help but pat her chest to calm her heart that was about to jump out of her chest. She then lightly patted Yu Yang's head and rebuked him. Since you have the best way to clear this stage, why do you still need to do unnecessary things? You're going to scare Fourth Mother to death by messing around like this. You're not allowed to mess around like this anymore. No matter what you do, you have to think about everyone else. If anything happens to you, how are we going to live in the future? Of course, this matter isn't entirely your fault. This is fate. Pandora meeting you is also a kind of fate. It's all fated. Sometimes we can't escape even if we want to. With Sister's blessing, we will definitely be able to turn misfortune into fortune in the future. Yu Yang suddenly buried his head in her embrace, as if he had fallen asleep. He gently closed his eyes. Fourth Mother's face was filled with infinite gentleness. Her long eyelashes also slightly closed. Gently, caressing his black hair and caressing his cheeks. Her voice was like the sound of nature under the starry sky. Sleep, Sen-er. You have to bear all the responsibilities in the family. Fourth Mother knows that you have been very tired, but there's no other way. You're the only pillar in the family. Fourth Mother also wants to help you, but sleep. With Fourth Mother here, you don't have to be afraid of anything. Everything will be fine. In her gentle motherly radiance, Yu Yang was intoxicated. He wasn't sleeping soundly. Instead, he had sunk into an indescribable spiritual world. Tranquil, peaceful, ethereal, worry-free. Was this Fourth Mother's heart? In such a peaceful spiritual world, even if he slept for 10,000 years, he wouldn't feel lonely. When Yu Yang woke up, he realized that he was lying on a long bench. His body was lying flat. His head was resting on Fourth Mother's knees. His arms were wrapped around her waist. He had slept like a child. Before he opened his eyes, he heard Drunken Cat's voice. He hurriedly continued to maintain his half-awake state. He could only hear her trembling as she pleaded, "Can you cross off my name? Fourth Mother, I don't want to marry him." "Why?" Fourth Mother's voice was as gentle as still water. Wu Xia, Qian Qian, and Fallen Flowers' names are all on it. If I want to be with them, how can I say it? Drunken Cat's voice carried a hint of sobbing. "Is it related to the main wife?" Fourth Mother asked. "No, it's not." Drunken Cat hurriedly denied. "Wu Xia is the best candidate." Even Qian Qian agreed on this point. "Then you don't like my Sanner anymore?" Fourth Mother purposely asked. "It's not that. It's just that my status is too different from his. Moreover, he always teases me. I don't know what he's thinking." Fourth Mother, my heart is in a mess. Can you let me think about it first? Can you help me persuade His Majesty? It's true that you care about me, but I want to make the decision myself. All right, you can't let him know. If things don't work out, I don't know how to face him in the future. Fourth Mother, you're the best. Help me. Drunken Cat anxiously pulled Fourth Mother's hand. She looked at her pitifully with red eyes. Fourth Mother knows what you're worried about, but it doesn't matter at all. Go back and think about it. Silly child, who doesn't know that this matter is absurd, but it is still a lifetime of happiness. Is happiness really so easy to find? If you care so much about what others think, won't your life be even more tiring? Wu Xia, Qian Qian, and Fallen Flowers can all let go. Why do you have to be so stubborn? Silly child, you'll only suffer if you do this. Fourth Mother softly comforted Drunken Cat. She reached out and hugged her lightly. She comforted her heart a little. Drunken Cat's originally excited heart gradually calmed down. When she saw Yu Yang's face that was still sleeping soundly, she saw that the corner of his mouth was slightly curved. It was as if he saw something joyful in his dreams and laughed silently in his dreams. It was as if he could see through her heart and laugh at her on purpose. Immediately, her heart trembled. She couldn't control herself. Fourth Mother, I'm going back. Let me think about it first. Drunken Cat didn't dare to look at him anymore. She was afraid that if she looked at him again, she wouldn't be able to shift her gaze away. She stood up and ran away as fast as she could. One awkward, silly child. Fourth Mother couldn't help but laugh. Chapter 877. After 3 days, Yu Yang didn't see Drunken Cat. On the other hand, the little panda girl Nyonyo played happily with Yu Shuang, the naughty little girl. At night, she, who was originally obedient, even climbed onto Yu Yang's bed with Shuang air, hugging him from both sides and making love. It was rare for Yu Yang to enjoy a few days of the peaceful life he had when he had just transmigrated to this world. During the day, he would accompany the 2 little girls to play crazily. From time to time, he would imperceptibly teach them all kinds of knowledge, allowing them to unknowingly learn many things that they couldn't learn in class. Sometimes he would also go to the kitchen to help Fourth Mother wash the vegetables or cut the bones of the meat. Although this kind of messy behavior would most likely be chased out by Fourth Mother, Yu Yang was still very happy to do it. His most exaggerated behavior was to personally carry a large basin of water and wash Fourth Mother's feet with Shuang air. He said it was to repay for teaching Shuang air filial piety. Fourth Mother couldn't resist and could only agree in the end. On one side was Yu Yang, and on the other side was Yu Shuang, washing Fourth Mother's feet for the first time. Although Fourth Mother was smiling, she wiped her tears from time to time, especially when she saw Yu Shuang, this little girl, sweating profusely and getting her whole body drenched in water, but still persisted. She was so touched that she hugged the little girl and cried. Drunken Cat hid in the corner and peeped for a long time. In the end, she disappeared silently. Yu Bing returned very quickly, accompanied by Shui Wuxia and Princess Sisai. She still didn't know that the ancient rune was reserved for her by Yu Yang. She even excitedly reported to her brother that her two sisters-in-law helped her absorb the rune's energy and made a breakthrough in her realm. She felt that she was already taking advantage of her brother. She was even a little proud in her heart. Since her brother wanted to absorb the ancient rune, she naturally couldn't let him go too far. Helping him absorb the surrounding rune's energy was the only thing she could do. This was also progress, wasn't it? This was what Yu Bing was thinking. If she knew that the ancient rune was left behind by Yu Yang for her, she would definitely be terrified. It was precisely because he was worried that this little girl wouldn't accept the ancient forest that Yu Yang kept his secret. Something doesn't feel right. Princess Sisai, who had sharp senses, expressed her suspicions. No. Yu Yang was a little speechless. Did you do something behind our backs? Shui Wuxia also used the smiling torture method to interrogate. In fact, she had the Book of Truth. As long as she saw Yu Yang, she would know a little bit. She said that just to cooperate with Tigress. Even if I had the guts, I wouldn't dare. Yu Yang hurriedly explained that he was actually a good boy who did good deeds without leaving his name. The problem is, your guts are bigger than the heavens. Princess Sisai saw through this little trick in one glance. Brother, confess and you'll be lenient. Even Yu Bing excitedly joined in the interrogation. Now that things have come to this, I have no choice but to say it. Actually, I agreed to their forced marriage in 3 months' time. You guys also know that I was alone previously. How could I be a match for the old fox and the others? I could only raise my hands and surrender. Yu Yang put on an expression that said, it's not my fault to be a traitor. So it's like this. Congratulations, brother. Yu Bing was happy for her brother from the bottom of her heart. She also congratulated Princess Sisai and Shui Wuxia. Are there going to be wedding candies soon? The only reason why the little girl felt that marriage was good was because there would be a lot of wedding candies to eat. When she heard that her brother was going to get married, she almost drooled. Little girl, what do you know? Go away. Yu Bing reprimanded. In fact, her mind had always been blank about what marriage meant. For Yu Bing, who worked hard to cultivate and pursue her brother, marriage was something that she had never thought about. It was something that was too far away for her. However, she knew that if her brother got married officially, then her sisters-in-law would marry into his family. But was there any difference? Now, her sisters-in-law were living and cultivating together with her brother. Yu Bing didn't think too much about it. She just felt that since it was something that the elders wanted her to do, and it was something that was beneficial to her brother, it must be right. When Princess Sisai and Shui Wuxia heard this news, they couldn't help but blush, even though they had heard some rumors before. Shui Wuxia recovered a little faster. She nodded to show her tacit agreement and calmed down. As for Princess Sisai, Tigress, perhaps she felt that Yu Yang had agreed too quickly and didn't ask for her opinion, or perhaps she felt that she was not mentally prepared when he said it in public. She raised her pink fist and gave him a hard punch. She didn't let him off easily. Who agreed to marry you? Yu Yang caught her fist. Tigress, do you still want to run away? This time, Qianqian's face became even redder, and even her neck was burning. She glared at him shyly. The children are watching. Let go of me. Hearing this, Yu Bing covered her face and pretended that she didn't see it. I didn't see anything, but the little girl was not as cooperative as her. She peeked through the gap between her fingers and burst out laughing. I saw it. My brother wanted to kiss Sister Qianqian. I saw it. Haha, I'll tell my mother. Yu Bing didn't wait for the little girl to make a fuss. She lifted her up and tried to hold back her laughter. Little girl, what are you trying to do? How can your brother be married? Nonsense. All right, I brought candied plums. If you don't want to eat them, I'll give them all to Nyonyo. I want them. I want them all. At most, I'll give a little to Nyonyo. Wow, sister is the best. Yu Shuang, this little girl, immediately flattered her sister when she heard this. Princess Sisai, who was forcefully kissed by Yu Yang, rolled her eyes at him snappily. The heroic female swordsman's face was flushed. She was half shy and half annoyed. What kind of feeling was this with the coquettish pout of a little girl? Yu Yang couldn't describe it. He only felt that Princess Sisai, this rouge tigress, had never been so cute before. He couldn't help but laugh out loud. This made Princess Sisai, who was too ashamed to show her face, crazily bite him. Shui Wuxia quietly stood on the other side of Yu Yang. She quietly looked at the man she loved. She didn't need to take the initiative. She only needed to wait for a while, and he would turn around and kiss her gently. Just like how no matter how many girls with their own strengths appear by his side, he would never forget that there was still himself waiting quietly. Because of fate, he couldn't possibly only belong to himself forever. However, there would always be a place for himself by his side. Just like in the deepest part of his heart, there would always be himself. Yu Yang turned his face and lightly touched her lips like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water. The longing of the two was exchanged in this gentle kiss. Blending. It really makes people jealous. He's so gentle to Xuanyo, but he's completely different to me. Princess Sisai felt that the method of forcing Yu Yang to kiss her was more suitable for her. She wouldn't indulge him like how Shui Wuxia cooperated with him. However, seeing this brat being so affectionate, she couldn't help but protest. "Come, tigress, let me compensate you properly." Yu Yang put on a perverted look and acted like he wanted to hug her. "Who cares?" Chin punched him and sent him flying. At the corner of the wall, Drunken Cat's shadow appeared. It disappeared in a flash. Whether it was Princess Sisai with her sensitive sixth senses or Shui Wuxia with her limitless divine sense, both of them noticed it, but they didn't expose it. Everyone had their own little secrets, didn't they? At night, Yu Yang and the little girl took out a basin of water to wash Fourth Mother's feet. Yu Bing's eyes reddened in an instant. She had never washed her mother's feet in her entire life. She rushed forward excitedly and squeezed in between her brother and sister. She wiped her tears as she watered her mother's feet. Her tender little face was blurred by her tears. Not only her, even Princess Sisai and Shui Wuxia were stunned. After a long time, Shui Wuxia finally reacted and nodded towards Princess Sisai. She squatted down lightly and took the towel from Yu Yang's hands, gently wiping Fourth Mother's feet. On the other hand, Princess Qian was still a little hesitant. She waited until Fourth Mother, who was covering her face and crying, carried Shuang Er onto her lap. She then looked at Yu Yang and saw him nod his head. Then, she slowly squatted down and used her trembling hands to take over Yu Shuang's position. Yu Bing was crying her eyes out, sobbing as she helped her mother clean. Her actions were so clumsy and gentle, as if she didn't dare to use any strength, afraid that if she used even a little strength, she would make a mistake. In the shadow of the corner of the wall, Drunken Cat covered her face with her hands. She didn't make a sound, but her face was already full of tears. On the second day, Princess Sisai and Shui Wuxia bid farewell to Yu Yang. "I want to go back and take a look. Don't misunderstand. I don't have any longing for that old fellow." Princess Sisai only didn't admit defeat verbally. Actually, ever since she got to know Yu Yang, her father-daughter relationship with Junwu Yu had eased up a lot. She said that she wouldn't forgive that hateful father, but other than saying it to Yu Yang, she was no longer the stubborn Princess Sisai in front of others. After all, after going through a series of big battles, she realized that if she didn't treat her father better now, if another big battle were to break out, her father might leave forever. Even if she wanted to be filial, it would be too late. "You really don't need me to accompany you back?" Yu Yang looked at Princess Sisai and asked Shui Wuxia. "Next time, let's forget about today. We aren't going back for a long time. We're just staying at home for a day or two to feel the atmosphere at home." Shui Wuxia gave Yu Yang a hug and whispered in his ear, "We'll continue the interrogation when we come back. Don't think that you really managed to hide from us yesterday." "No, don't touch me." Princess Sisai struggled with all her might, but Yu Yang insisted on hugging her. Although Yu Bing and Yu Shuang covered their faces and didn't look, they still peeked through the gaps between their fingers. This made her feel the most embarrassed. This Isn't this teaching children bad things? Your Highness, the custom at my side is like this. The greeting gift is a hug and a kiss. Yu Yang expressed that he wanted to abide by the custom. Why don't you hug Fatty High? Princess Sisai punched him in disdain. Nonsense, the custom of hugging and kissing is only limited to beauties. Yu Yang snorted coldly. Where did this custom come from? Princess Sisai was speechless. He invented it himself. Shui Wuxiao understood Yu Yang the most. Then I'll invent another one. In the future, whoever sees this hateful custom will be rewarded with a beating. Princess Qian Qian wanted to punch Yu Yang again, but who knew that Yu Yang was already prepared this time. He parried Princess Qian Qian's fist and rushed into her embrace. Chest to chest, face to face, he kissed her fiercely. If not for Princess Sisai biting his lips so hard that it hurt, he wouldn't have let go. Children shouldn't look. Yu Bing giggled as she covered Yu Shuang's eyes. It's just kissing, what's there to look at? I kiss my brother every day. Yu Shuang, this girl, expressed her disdain. She hugged Yu Yang and kissed him twice with a pa-pa sound. Her childish actions made everyone burst into laughter. At the corner of the wall, a shadow peeping at them flashed by. Indistinctly, they could even hear laughter. Chapter 878. Whitestone City Tavern. Because this was the place where Yu Clan's third young master rose to power, the tavern in Whitestone City had received a bounty from the Wu Clan Guild. It was completely renovated and a warrior's plaza was built. In the middle of the plaza, there was even a statue of a young man releasing an eagle, hinting that this was the place where Tong Tian Tower's #1 warrior, Yu Clan's third young master, rose to power. Not only did many mercenaries and ambitious youths from the soaring Dragon Continent come to Whitestone City for sightseeing, even some of Tong Tian Tower's allies, such as the dwarves, taurens, orcs, golden elves, and so on, would come under the leadership of Tong Tian Tower's warriors, wanting to see the place where Yu Clan's third young master rose to power. Whitestone City soil was said to be a souvenir among the various races in Tong Tian Tower. Gifting a portion of Whitestone City's soil was a wish for the other party's descendants to soar. If it wasn't for Jun Wu Yu's strict order forbidding digging, the house that Yu Yang and Fourth Mother used to live in would have been demolished. Really? A mercenary like me, who only has one rotten life, can also participate in Third Young Master's wedding? What? What did you say? Dragon Knight Corps? Those who pass the test can get a gold-ranked wyvern? Can join Third Young Master's Dragon Knight Corps? A one-eyed mercenary had just returned from a mission with his companions. When he entered the tavern, he heard this news. He was so excited that he started trembling, spilling the wine in his hand all over the table. It's like a dream. The surrounding mercenaries could not believe their ears. When have I, Golden Tooth, ever lied? Do you think I'll get paid to lie to you? Moreover, who is Third Young Master? His words are more effective than an imperial edict. You can doubt anyone, but you can never doubt Third Young Master. Besides, you can't understand Third Young Master's greatness and kindness. That's why you have such dirty thoughts to doubt him. Fortunately, you're here. If you were in Shangjing, you'd definitely be beaten up if you spoke ill of Third Young Master. An old mercenary with 2 golden front teeth sat arrogantly on a chair. He, who was usually a scumbag, was now enjoying the honor of the tavern owner personally pouring wine for him. He was the one who brought the news of Yu Clan's third young master forming a Dragon Knight Legion to escort his bride. I'm not questioning the third young master. I wouldn't dare. I just couldn't react in time. The one-eyed mercenary quickly defended himself. What a joke. He couldn't afford to be accused of doubting the third young master. I don't think you dare. Golden Tooth laughed loudly. Otherwise, even if I have to risk my life, I will beat you up. Yes, yes. The one-eyed mercenary was more than 10 times stronger than Golden Tooth. If they really fought, he could probably kill Golden Tooth with a single slap. Because of third young master's information, Golden Tooth was like a sacred object that couldn't be violated. The one-eyed mercenary apologized profusely. Apologize again and again. The old mercenary, Golden Tooth, saw that the people in the tavern were attracted by the news he brought and were all crowding around him. However, he was not in a hurry to tell them. He slowly picked up a crispy peanut with his chopsticks and chewed it with relish. The mercenaries who were eager to know the truth were left out in the cold. He waited until the mercenaries' necks stretched out before he put down his chopsticks and slammed the table. He said vividly, "Do you think that I, Golden Tooth, got my name for nothing? My information is definitely the latest and most accurate. It has already spread slowly in Whitestone City. If it was in big cities like Shangjing, it would have already spread. Think about it. How could Third Young Master's betrothal gift be simple? What kind of person is Third Young Master? TSK. He prepared for so long. What he took out would definitely be huge. I say, you guys still don't know everything. If you knew, wouldn't you be scared to death on the spot? I, Golden Tooth, am very well informed, yet I only know a little bit. However, just a little bit is enough to completely shock me. What's going on with Third Young Master's betrothal gift? Please tell us." The one-eyed mercenary tried to curry favor with Golden Tooth by pouring wine for him. The part that cannot be revealed is the country's secret. It is definitely not something people like us can know. Even those with power and authority, or Third Young Master's close friends and relatives, only know a part of it. The most secret is what Third Young Master secretly communicated with the two emperors. Golden Tooth drank a cup of wine, and his face was flushed red. He slammed the table complacently. "If I, Golden Tooth, did not accept the mission, I would not dare to speak carelessly. Do you guys know who gave me the mission? Could it be Third Young Master?" The mercenaries were all excited when they heard this. "You guys are dreaming. Third Young Master is a very busy person, and he is also busy with his wedding. How would he have the time to give me a mission? Moreover, this kind of thing does not suit his noble status." Golden Tooth sneered, looking down on the mercenaries' intelligence. Yes, we were thinking too much." The people in the tavern roared with laughter. Indeed, Third Young Master did not know Golden Tooth at all. Why would he give him a mission? "The person who gave me the mission is Third Young Master's teacher. Speaking of his name, I'm sure you all know him. He is Sir Xia Ho Wei Jia, the most famous eagle eye in the soaring dragon continent." Golden Tooth put on an expression of reminiscence. "Yesterday, Sir Xiaoho gathered all the mercenaries in the Shangjing Mercenary Guild, including me. He invited us to a meal and gave us a mission on the spot. He wanted us to spread the news of Third Young Master's wedding. Before coming to Whitestone City, I had already spread the good news in the 4 cities. What? You mean the reaction? That would definitely cause a sensation. Everyone in the audience was reluctant to let me leave. If it wasn't for the mission that forced me to take action, I wouldn't have come here. I would have been drunk by the Maple City mercenaries. All right, pitiful mercenaries, let me tell you. The light of hope is here. It was brought to you by the world's greatest and kindest Third Young Master. If any of you can enter the Dragon Knights or the Dragon Blood Guards, never forget to be grateful. Don't forget Third Young Master's gift. Tell us in detail." The one-eyed mercenary and his companions hurriedly cleared the table. They also ordered the tavern owner to bring up a plate of the most famous charcoal demonic beef shank for Golden Tooth to enjoy. What about people like us who have no potential and are in our 30s? If we fail our mission, we'll become penniless. I'm afraid we won't even be able to pay the registration fee for the Dragon Knights. Another bearded mercenary sighed worriedly. Actually, there were quite a few people who thought the same. Mercenaries were people who lived on the edge of a blade. No one knew when they would die. Once they had money, they would spend it, gamble, and whore. They had almost no savings. There was no need to talk about the difficulty of the Dragon Knight's test. The worst thing was that they wouldn't even have enough to pay the registration fee. Tui, Golden Tooth, suddenly flew into a rage. He pointed at the bearded mercenary's nose and scolded. "How can you use such filthy thoughts to question Third Young Master's good intentions? Who said anything about a registration fee? Do you think Third Young Master would ask for money from mercenaries who are worse than beggars? All he has to do is say the word, and someone will pave a path with gold coins for him to walk on. Who said anything about a registration fee? No, not a single coin. It's completely free." "It's really completely free?" The mercenaries were stunned. This was the first time something like this had ever happened. There was no such thing as a free job in this world. In other words, Third young master would bear the cost himself. In order to form the Dragon Knights, third young master had not only provided opportunities and flying dragons, but he didn't even charge a registration fee. At this thought, the mercenaries couldn't help but blush. It was indeed rude of them to guess third young master's character from an old point of view. A noble person like third young master was naturally the most generous person in the world. It was the greatest disrespect to imagine him as a greedy vampire. No wonder Golden Tooth was angry. Ahem, I was wrong. I really didn't know it was free. Besides, I wasn't being disrespectful to third young master. I was just thinking too much. The bearded mercenary quickly slapped his own mouth. The other mercenaries also apologized, expressing that they knew third young master was the most generous person. It was just that their words had offended him. People without potential, or people of our age, can't enter the Dragon Knights. What should we do then? Someone asked. Listen up. Actually, Lord Xiaoho has already told us that no matter how strong you are now, third young master won't look up to you. Innates are nothing in third young master's eyes. But no matter how useless you are, third young master won't look down on you. He is the greatest, second to none. Just because you're useless doesn't mean you don't have potential. Third young master has his own methods to accurately measure a person's potential. Of course, it's important to know your own limits. If you have strength but no potential, don't be too disappointed. After all, everyone is already quite old. If you had potential, it's possible that it's already gone. It's normal that you can't compare to the younger generation. If you can't enter the Dragon Knights, you still have one last hope. That is to enter the Dragon Blood Guards. Golden Tooth firmly affirmed you clan's third young master's greatness. Dragon Blood Guards? The mercenaries' eyes lit up. To be more precise, the Dragon Blood Guard is both the easiest and the hardest to enter, replied Golden Tooth. How is it the easiest and hardest? The mercenaries in the tavern looked at each other in dismay. Wasn't this contradictory? The easiest is that it's said that anyone can enter. Moreover, this door is always open. It's always recruiting. There's always hope. Golden Tooth first raised his left hand, then his right, increasing the power of his words. If you say it's the hardest, then it's really the hardest. According to Lord Xiaoho, third young master hopes to give every warrior in the soaring dragon continent a chance. Remember, it's everyone, including us. If anyone among us can pass the test of willpower, no matter how strong they are, then there's hope to enter the Dragon Blood Guards. Compared to the Dragon Knights' requirements for potential and geniuses, the Dragon Blood Guards only require one thing, and that is perseverance. Lord Xiaoho told us that third young master had set this rule. Even if it's a mediocre person, as long as he is willing to do one thing for 10 years, as long as he has a firm will, then he can join the Dragon Blood Guards. Because even if it's a mediocre person, as long as his willpower is recognized, third young master can give him a dragon blood pill and let him become a strong warrior. When he said this, the entire tavern became deathly silent. Everyone almost suffocated. The mercenaries' suppressed breathing and swallowing sounds were especially loud in the tavern. After an unknown amount of time, only after Golden Tooth had finished eating the charcoal demon ox, did the mercenaries regain their senses with great difficulty. Before Golden Tooth left, he revealed a piece of shocking news. Third young master has reserved 3,000 spots for Dragon Knights, but the number of elites from all the families in the soaring dragon continent doesn't even reach 300. In other words, anyone among you has a chance. Or, your children, even if they're only 3 years old, can be brought over to take the test. Maybe they'll become a Dragon Knight in the future. Everyone, Golden Tooth, have brought this news to you. I don't have any requests, as long as you always remember one thing. Third young master is the greatest. You must always remember to be grateful and never forget your roots. Even after Golden Tooth left the tavern and continued to the next city to spread the news, the mercenaries were still dumbstruck. Was this a dream? Or was it real? The soaring dragon continent was shaken by this shocking news that came out of nowhere. Yu-Clan's third young master officially sent betrothal gifts to the Shui clan, the Xiao royal family, and Tian Luo royal family. The three families also agreed to the Yu clan's betrothal. The Shui clan's eldest miss, the Xia royal family's Princess Sisai, and Tian Luo royal family's fallen flowers were betrothed to Yu clan's third young master. Among them, the Shui clan's eldest miss would be the first wife, while Princess Sisai and Princess Fallen Flowers would be the second wives. The news of the marriage was already shocking enough, but the promise that Yu clan's third young master made when he sent the betrothal gifts made the entire soaring dragon continent even more excited. Third young master's original words were, "In order to express my respect to the Shui clan, the Xia royal family, and Tian Luo royal family, I am willing to form a Dragon Knight army and lead them to the wedding." Yu clan's third young master promised to recruit members from the Dragon Knight army to the entire soaring dragon continent, even the allied races of Tong Tian Tower. What made people go crazy was that as long as one could pass the test of potential and willpower, no matter what level of strength, identity, or age, a warrior of the soaring dragon continent could apply to join the Dragon Knight army. Once they entered, other than receiving the best training, there would also be a wyvern that was not lower than innate level 5 and not lower than gold ranked waiting to be contracted by an ordinary mortal. Becoming a wyvern knight was just a matter of time. If this news was not enough of a surprise, there was more to come. This was because even if the candidate's potential was trash and could not reach the standard of a dragon knight, there was no need to despair. The kindest, most generous, greatest, and most praised Yu clan's third young master had even promised such a condition that everyone could not help but be moved. As long as the candidate's willpower was strong enough, even if their strength was trash, Yu clan's third young master would still give them a chance. Even if they could not join the Dragon Knight army, they could still join the Dragon Blood Guard army and become a glorious dragon blood warrior. This was the promise that Yu clan's third young master made when he made the betrothal, a decision that could change the fate of the entire soaring dragon continent. While the people of the world were shedding tears and praising the third young master, they would never know how shamelessly the third young master swindled the two-headed black dragon of the Beast Valley. How greedily he extracted the dragon whistle, dragon blood, dragon teeth, dragon claws, dragon horns, dragon scales, dragon flames, star stones, and moon gems from the pitiful old dragon. Right now, the soaring dragon continent was in an uproar. Even if someone told the world the truth, no one would believe it. This was because in the eyes of ordinary warriors, Yu clan's third young master was the epitome of generosity and greatness. He was a sacred and inviolable existence. Chapter 879. Tian Luo Palace. What Yu Yang did not expect was that His Majesty suddenly summoned him today. Usually, even if he requested to see His Majesty, he would use the excuse of being unwell to refuse. What was going on today? Yu Yang was puzzled, but also expectant. After all, His Majesty wasn't someone he could meet whenever he wanted. The female official on duty led him to the stairs of the inner palace and silently retreated. Just like last time, there was a door separating them. If it was someone else who treated Yu Yang like this, he would have already broken the door and rushed in. However, acting like a hooligan wouldn't work in front of His Majesty. Here, he had to pretend to be an obedient child. Maintaining his smile, Yu Yang put on an expression of "it's not strange to be courteous." I heard that you, Jun Wu Yu, Shui Dong Lu, and the others created a Dragon Knight Legion, bringing about a martial atmosphere in the whole soaring dragon continent. His Majesty asked. Actually, I'm not that great. Yu Yang looked humble, but he was actually very proud. It would be strange if this idea that he thought of with so much effort had no effect at all. Yu Yang took out a proposal and walked up the stairs, as if he wanted to push open the door and enter. However, he didn't in the end. Instead, he used a teleportation ability to send the proposal into the inner palace. He then said seriously, "The seniors and Elder Nangong all think that if the soaring dragon continent wants to rise, we must maintain our competitiveness. Searching for elites, forming a Dragon Knight Legion, using honor and opportunity to bring about a martial atmosphere is only the first step. The proposal is not bad, but I don't know how effective it will be when implemented." His Majesty muttered to himself for a long time, as if he was carefully looking through the proposal. In the end, he said, "I quite agree with the idea of forming a Dragonblood Guard Legion. It was impossible for everyone to be an elite. There were some people with special talents, or those with strong willpower. Most importantly, there were those who were loyal. Indeed, there were opportunities that could be tailored to each person, allowing them to display their strengths in various fields. Many seniors have thought about this before, but in the end, no one did it well, including the prison emperor. If you decide to do it, I will support you. I only hope that you can do it to the end and do your best. Since His Majesty has ordered, I will definitely do my best." Yu Yang smiled and bowed. "I won't participate in the plans of the Dragon Riders and Dragonblood Guards." His Majesty paused for a while and said, "With your ability and the cooperation of everyone else, even if it takes a long time, I believe that you can still do it. After all, with your reputation, it will be a little difficult to drive the whole Tong Tian Tower, but it would not be a problem to drive the whole Soaring Dragon continent. Don't. Your Majesty, please don't just stand by and do nothing." Yi Yang was anxious. He was hoping for His Majesty's full support. "On this side, East Heaven King and West Heaven King will cooperate with you. If it doesn't work, I'll send you another special envoy to be in charge of this matter." His Majesty seemed to have made a decision. "Then what are you busy with all day? You stay in the harem every day with nothing to do. Don't you feel bored?" Yu Yang sweated profusely. "It's none of your business." His Majesty was furious. "Just treat it as a small favor for me." Yu Yang hurriedly bowed and showed a sincere attitude. "I've been very busy recently. I don't have time at all." If His Majesty said this, even if you asked the whole Soaring Dragon continent, no one would believe him. Everyone knew that the Tian Luo Emperor, Hua Su Ri, was the most leisurely emperor in the world. He stayed in the imperial harem every day and rarely went to court. He also didn't care about government affairs and left all the internal affairs to his ministers. There was a joke in the Soaring Dragon continent that went like this. It was said that there was once an important celebration at the Tian Luo Plaza. His Majesty Hua Su Ri's body was slightly unwell, so he woke up late. He didn't even have time to change into his splendid attire and was brought out of the palace by a female official, preparing to participate in the celebration at the plaza. As a result, she was stopped by the official who was in charge of maintaining order. The official asked His Majesty for a VIP invitation. When the female official showed the rising sun jade pendant that proved His Majesty's identity, the official thought it was a bribe and sternly refused. "For the safety of His Majesty, I can't let unidentified people enter the square. You must leave immediately. Otherwise, I will call the palace guards to arrest you." Although this joke was a little exaggerated, it was impossible for the officials in charge of maintaining order not to recognize the rising sun jade pendant that represented the emperor's identity. It was even more impossible for Tian Luo to allow a blind official who didn't recognize His Majesty to be responsible for maintaining order. However, speaking of reality, the situation was more or less like this. In the Tian Luo kingdom, at least 1/5 of the officials and 1/10 of the city masters had never seen the Tian Luo emperor, His Majesty Hua Su Ri. It was said that there were more than 100 Tian Luo officials who mistook the Tian Luo heavenly imperial guardians, who often appeared to manage the kingdom's affairs, as the emperor. From this, it could be seen how little His Majesty Hua Su Ri, the emperor of the Tian Luo kingdom, was really too low-key. Compared to the Xia emperor, Jun Wuyu, the Tian Luo emperor, Hua Su Ri, was really low-key. Although Jun Wuyu had never printed his portrait on the gold coins and arrogantly let everyone know what he looked like, at least 80% of the people in the Xia kingdom, including the commoners, knew what the emperor looked like. Especially the rise of Yu Yang, who had indirectly made Jun Wuyu famous. Even many people in the Tong Tian Tower had heard of his name. When Yu Yang heard that His Majesty was busy, he couldn't help but laugh. He thought, if you're very busy, then there's no one in this world who's idle. His Majesty seemed to have seen through Yu Yang's thoughts and lightly scolded, "I'm really busy. If you don't know, then don't make wild guesses." Yu Yang was curious. Then were you busy with, your majesty? His majesty muttered to himself for a long time, then let out a faint sigh. I'm researching if there's a way to replace the summoning grimoire. Isn't that just wishful thinking? Yu Yang was obviously not optimistic. If these words were said by Jun Wu Yu or the old cunning fox, Yu Yang would have thought that they were crazy. Replacing the summoning grimoire, it was really a fool's dream. If there was something that could replace the summoning grimoire, why would the Heaven Realm's heaven-ranked warriors need to stare at other people's grimoire and drool? The secret of the summoning grimoire, even with Yu Yang's heaven eyes divine vision, he still couldn't see any traces of it being created. He couldn't see the truth at all. He estimated that even the legendary gods couldn't create a summoning grimoire. Only those unimaginably strong ancient gods from ancient times could do it. Now, the Tianluo Emperor Hua, Su Ri, actually said that he wanted to research something to replace the summoning grimoire. Yu Yang was already giving him face and not laughing himself to death. Both of them looked at each other, speechless. After an unknown period of time, His Majesty suddenly sighed softly. The summoning grimoire is too mysterious. Among the Heaven Stairway rankers, there have been people researching it for generations, but they haven't made any significant progress. Later on, the Heaven Stairway rankers changed their way of thinking and proposed a bold idea. Even if they couldn't reach the level of summoning grimoire, they could develop a substitute for warriors who couldn't contract a grimoire. Yu Yang was shocked. Were these Heaven Stairway rankers eating too much? There was actually such a crazy research. From His Majesty's tone, this kind of research had been going on for a long time. Knowing that it was futile, why did these people still persist? With a little curiosity and probing, Yu Yang asked, "How long has this research been going on?" His Majesty answered, 8,000 years. Yu Yang was speechless. Spending 8,000 years to research a project that would never succeed, was this stubbornness or foolishness? I said, "I don't have time to care about your matters. These few months I want to sleep. You can go back. If you need anything, you can look for the Eastern Sky King." His Majesty was about to send Yu Yang away. "Wait, let me help you." Yu Yang's heart moved. If he could have a breakthrough in this area, then he believed that it would be of great help to his realm. "You don't have this kind of patience." His Majesty refused. "Tell me about your ideas and progress first." Yu Yang insisted on listening. If he really couldn't do it, he would give up. Since 8,000 years ago, it has gradually become a fixed idea. We hope to connect and communicate with the soul through a certain item. At the same time, this item is the carrier of the contracted beast. You also know that the carrier of the contracted beast is very common in treasures, especially those above gold rank. For example, the holy rank and god rank treasures directly have a spirit. We are thinking if there is a way to lower the requirements and quality of this carrier. It is impossible for ordinary warriors to use gold rank and above treasures, and some young children do not have enough mental power to control it. If we can research a kind of carrier, it is silver rank or bronze rank, and it can also contract beasts above gold rank, then wouldn't it? When His Majesty talked about this kind of research, his interest was immediately aroused, and he talked nonstop to Yu Yang. "I see." Yu Yang felt that in the inheritance of knowledge, there was also a part of the sealed knowledge about this, but it was not a complete part. He guessed that Sister Xin Yang had also studied the substitute of the grimoire before, but due to time constraints, she did not study more deeply. The carrier of the contracted beast is the first difficult problem. However, the most difficult one is the soul communication. His Majesty sighed deeply. "This is too difficult." Soul communication. Yu Yang also frowned. 4 innate rankers and above. This was a difficult problem. However, for ordinary people, soul communication could only be an extravagant hope. Perhaps in their dreams, there were very few people with pure souls who could successfully contact the soul under the influence of some inherent skill or ability. Even if ordinary people let others guide and communicate with the soul by force, it would also cause damage to the soul. If a carrier with a gold rank or above beast was allowed to communicate with the soul, the will of the beast would probably directly destroy the fragile soul of an ordinary person. other than the inestimable treasure of the summoning grimoire. There was no other way to bear this. If one really wanted to contract a beast with the soul and the body must be completely combined, so that the beast and the master would be completely one. In other words, if this could be done, then the beast would be a guardian beast, an existence that would live and die together with the master. Ordinary contracts were only physical contracts. If the beast was slightly dissatisfied, it would betray the master. Or, if there was no connection of will, the beast would never learn and progress without wisdom. You go and do your own things. Maybe this is the wrong way. His Majesty advised Yu Yang not to put his heart and soul into this. Should I make another summoning grimoire? Yu Yang fell into deep thought. There was a light in his mind now. Although he did not know what it was, he had a strange feeling that if he could grasp this, he might have a further understanding of soul communication. His Majesty was a little strange. What did this brat want to do? Did he really want to help him make a replacement for the summoning grimoire? Was he crazy? Yu Yang sat on the steps without a care for his image, thinking hard, trying to grasp the floating inspiration. In the end, he lay on the steps with his hands as a pillow, crossed his legs casually, and looked at the sky with his unfocused eyes. His whole mind was immersed in the sea of thoughts. Whether it was the inheritance of Sister Si Nyang's knowledge, or the realization of Queen Vivian Lee's realm, or the wisdom and enlightenment brought to him by all the warriors in the world tree, and finally the various kinds of knowledge that he had learned before he transmigrated. What kind of thing could be used to become a replacement for the summoning grimoire? What kind of existence would be able to do this? His Majesty was afraid to disturb his thinking, so he did not speak and waited quietly. He could not help but feel a trace of expectation in his heart. Could this brat really solve this problem that had been unsolved for 8,000 years? Could a replacement for the summoning grimoire really appear? If he really solved this problem, how could he praise him? The most important thing was that if he completed this task, then according to the ancestors' teachings, where should he go? Forget it. It was better to let him go back quickly. It would be terrible if this brat really managed to research it. His Majesty coughed slightly. It's getting late. Go back first. You should be busy with the Dragonite Legion now. Put this aside for now. Wait. Yu Yang suddenly jumped up excitedly. I have an idea, but I don't know if it will work. You can't be? So fast. His Majesty exclaimed. He immediately suppressed his emotions and returned to normal, asking, You thought of a way so quickly? What kind of idea is it? I won't tell you first. Wait for me to make a sample. I hope it will work. God, if it works. Yu Yang ran out like a madman. This brat seems a little untrustworthy. Although His Majesty said this, he had an inexplicable confidence in Yu Yang. Chapter 880. The night was as cold as water, and the moon was curved like a hook. In the peaceful Tian Luo Palace, a huge explosion suddenly occurred, causing the guards on duty to jump in fright. Could it be another enemy attack? The two generals on duty immediately rushed to the place where the explosion occurred to investigate. They discovered a black shadow flashing past and were about to capture the thief, but the heavenly Imperial Guardians appeared and said that it wasn't an enemy attack, but the third young master was doing an experiment and ordered the two to leave. The third young master was a grandmaster in creating puppet beasts. He was ranked just below the ghost genius Yugong. This was a well-known fact in the soaring dragon continent. But what kind of experiment was he doing this time? The explosion was so powerful, it seemed that it was an extraordinary experiment. They didn't know if it was a success or a failure. The two generals on duty did not dare to ask anymore and quickly left. They couldn't inquire about the matters of their superiors. Furthermore, there were still 2 battalions of guards on duty waiting for them to appease them. Outside the Tian Luo Emperor Hua Su Ri's bedroom, Yu Yang flew in with his tattered clothes. The female official on duty was dumbfounded. She didn't know if she should stop him or not. She stared blankly at Yu Yang, flying past her. She saw the door close and close, but it was too late to stop him. She immediately turned around and pretended that she didn't see Yu Yang enter the room. What are you doing? I'm already resting. His Majesty was furious. This brat actually ran to his bed. This was too much. Don't sleep yet. Wake up and help me look at this. Although I didn't succeed, I found a right way of thinking. I feel that there's a lot of hope. Come, take a look, give me some advice. Yu Yang was so happy that he forgot himself as he handed over the black thing in his hand, as if he was presenting a treasure. His Majesty didn't know whether he should accept it or not. In the end, he snorted angrily and waved a pure white energy from the tent, keeping the object in Yu Yang's hand. He then gently pushed Yu Yang a few steps away, causing the entire tent to be covered with a layer of fog. This is simply nonsense. Who allowed you to barge into my bedroom? If there is a next time, you will be severely punished. His Majesty first scolded Yu Yang for his rudeness. I was just too happy and forgot about it. Although Yu Yang tried to explain, he didn't seem to regret it at all. Then can I beat you up if I'm in a good mood? You're just quibbling. His Majesty made him so angry that he almost suffered an internal injury. However, His Majesty still knew what kind of person Yu Yang was. Although this kid's life was a mess, he was still quite serious and focused when it came to doing big things. If he was in a good mood, it would not be strange for him to break into the palace at night, because this kid was such a person. Then, Your Majesty, please forgive me this time. Yu Yang apologized again. His attitude seemed to be very sincere. There was a big explosion just now, and he didn't have time to wash his face. He immediately ran over. His face, which was blackened by the explosion, looked a little embarrassed, but also a little focused and persistent. When His Majesty saw this, he couldn't help but feel a little understanding. He only became like this because of his own ideals. If it wasn't for him, he would have already hugged a little beauty to sleep. Why would he need to come to his place in the middle of the night to be scolded? Towards this kid, His Majesty really wanted to be angry, but he couldn't. Seeing that his nose was twitching, as if he smelled something unusual, His Majesty immediately coughed and diverted Yu Yang's attention. I won't pursue the matter of breaking into the palace at night, but this must be the only time. There won't be a next time. Thank you, Your Majesty. Seeing that His Majesty wasn't angry anymore, Yu Yang immediately introduced the results of his research. If I wanted to make an existence similar to a summoning grimoire, it would be impossible even if I used up all the power of Tong Tian Tower in Heaven Realm. That is a field that even the gods can't reach. So I thought, why do we have to build a castle in the air from the beginning? We don't have such high technology to build a pavilion in the sky, so we can build it on the ground. Of course, this is just an example. I mean, we can use our current technology and ability to make a substitute that we can achieve. His Majesty's interest was aroused by his words. Indeed, if it was too difficult to do, why not change the way of thinking and set a lower goal? Yu Yang moved a stool. He sat in front of the bed. He talked nonstop about his experience. As he spoke, he also called the female official on duty outside to bring tea and a drink. The female official heard His Majesty's call and came in with tea in a daze. When she saw Yu Yang sitting in front of His Majesty's bed, she looked as if she had seen a ghost. Yu Yang took a sip of tea and expressed his dissatisfaction with her poor service. However, the female official ran away quickly, so he couldn't complain even if he wanted to. Seeing this, His Majesty almost laughed. Did he think this was his home? This brat was really honest and impolite. However, at this time, His Majesty, who had aroused Yu Yang's interest, did not open his mouth to drive him away. Instead, he studied the semi-finished product in his hand and listened attentively. Yu Yang was like the U.S. president's inaugural speech that he had seen before he transmigrated. When he was excited, he waved his fists wildly. If we want to make a grimoire or something that can contract multiple war beasts, that's just a dream. Even the summoning grimoire, created by the ancient gods, only allows each person to have one guardian war beast. Therefore, before we have such a powerful ability, we shouldn't think about how to surpass or approach it. However, we can reflect on one point here. Since the guardian war beast of the summoning grimoire exists, and each guardian war beast has different attributes and characteristics, what does that mean? It means that everyone's potential and characteristics are different, at least in the soul side. In the body side, or the acquired things are the same, but those acquired things can't change a fact. The more His Majesty listened, the more he liked it. He also felt a flash of inspiration, but felt that it was still lacking a little. He couldn't help but cooperate with Yu Yang's speech and asked, "What fact?" Yu Yang waved his fist. "I don't dare to be 100% sure, but I am 90% sure that I can prove one thing. That is, everyone's soul has the potential to contract a grimoire. At the very least, most people have this possibility." His Majesty couldn't help but exclaim at Yu Yang's shocking statement. This is impossible. What do you have to prove it?" Yu Yang smiled very confidently. Although his face was black from the explosion, he was still full of charm. A kind of confident light shone in his eyes, bright like stars. He stood up, waved his fist heavily, and strengthened his tone. "First of all, let's think about why some people can contract a grimoire and others can't. Maybe many warriors will say that it's because of bloodline, but more people clearly understand that it's mainly a person's potential. This potential is linked to various aspects. Bloodline is only one kind. In other words, people who can contract a grimoire must be relatively outstanding in all aspects. Let's look at it this way. If everyone's soul can contract a grimoire, but only a few people can show their potential. With this, His Majesty immediately understood. A kind of confusion that he couldn't understand for a long time was instantly dispelled. It was as if a window had been opened. His Majesty felt that everything in front of him was suddenly clear. Maybe the things that he couldn't solve after so long were suddenly understood. "You're saying that it's because the human body restricts the contact between the soul and the grimoire. It's because the human body blocks the communication between the soul and the grimoire? It's because the human body's potential is insufficient that most people can't contract a grimoire?" His Majesty's voice became excited. He finally found a direction. Once this mystery was solved, many things became simple. "That's right." Yu Yang clapped his hands and said, "Another question, why can only people under 20 years old contract a grimoire? Of course, in the heaven realm or other races, this restriction doesn't exist. Like the Golden Elves, they can still contract a grimoire when they are hundreds of years old. This is because of the influence of the acquired." His Majesty immediately thought of the most important answer. "Yes," Yu Yang praised. "For example, if almost everyone has the potential to contract a grimoire in the infant stage, then as time passes and the acquired growth, if a person's potential is not excavated, it'll be greatly consumed and buried. It may also be buried by acquired knowledge and thoughts. Why do the younger generation of the big families have more chances to contract a grimoire? First, because they have an outstanding bloodline and enough potential. Second, because they're nurtured properly. Third, because of self-confidence. That's right, self-confidence. Ordinary people don't have the confidence to contract a grimoire. Undying faith is the first foundation of an innate elder. People without enough self-confidence would definitely not be able to contract a grimoire. Of course, those who have self-confidence, but no potential or too strong obsession, acquired greed, or some desire would cover up their innate potential and seriously cut off the communication between the soul. This is also the main reason why they can't contract a grimoire. The last reason is because of intelligence. Intelligence can be divided into two parts. One is knowledge, and the other is IQ. If you lack the former, you can make up for it through learning, just like how beasts can become holy beasts or divine beasts. If you lack IQ, then you are congenitally deficient. Naturally, you can't communicate with the soul. Now I understand a little why the seniors put the level innate. His Majesty suddenly realized and cried out involuntarily. Warriors who are enlightened are called innate rankers, and those who are one level higher are called innate elders. It turns out that they want us to work hard in the direction of innate. We have understood the reason. Actually, many people can contract a grimoire, but because of the acquired influence and the various influences during their growth, most of them sadly become mediocre. Yu Yang said happily and moved his stool forward a little. "Now that we have found the problem, we can start to research. My idea is to make something like what you said, something that can communicate with the soul, and something that can be used by ordinary martial artists. This thing, strictly speaking, is not a summoning grimoire. It is just a summoning item, just like a summoning crystal. However, it has one of the biggest advantages, which is that it can communicate with the soul. The contracted beast is similar to a guardian beast, and it is the closest to the user's own attributes and most suitable for the growth of the body. This black metal ball is the substitute you mentioned. His Majesty looked left and right, but couldn't see anything special about it. What black ball? It just hasn't succeeded yet. Yu Yang was stunned at first, but then he realized and explained, its function is like this. It is an instrument worn on the wrist. Ordinary warriors, or the younger generation who can't contract a grimoire, can't communicate with the soul. We don't need them to do this. We have made a special design for this bracelet. In terms of communicating with the soul, we are like seeds. We put our consciousness on the bracelet. This bracelet is equivalent to a puppet summoned beast. Its function is to awaken the user's summoned beast in the body. You mean this thing is a mechanism? His Majesty was so smart that he understood immediately. That's right. Yu Yang moved his chair forward a little more. If this thing is a crossbow, then the summoned beast is an arrow. As long as the user gently pulls the trigger, the arrow can be shot out. He doesn't need to know how to make a crossbow. Or does he need to know how to make a crossbow? He doesn't need to know anything, as long as he knows how to pull the trigger. According to what you said, it is really possible. The problem is, if this is the case, then you will have to work very hard, because everything is given by you. His Majesty was a little moved. If this was the case, then Yu Yang would have to pay the most, because this was purely a time-consuming and laborious work that did not benefit him. I thought you would criticize me and say that I will control all the warriors in the soaring dragon continent in the future. Yu Yang secretly wiped his cold sweat. You are full of lust. Do you also have ambition? His Majesty wanted to be serious, but he couldn't help but laugh. Hey, I'm a gentleman. Yu Yang's biggest wish in life was to pretend to be Lu Xiaohui and let beautiful women sit on his arms. You? Forget it. But do you really not need a reward? His Majesty suddenly had a headache. If this research that could change the whole soaring dragon continent was really successful, what should he give this brat as a reward? He didn't lack anything. Making a puppet beast is very easy, but testing its potential and planting a rune imprint to communicate with the soul is indeed quite troublesome. I suggest only making it for beautiful women. Your Majesty, when the time comes, we will split the beauties in half. If you are stronger, you can have 60%, and I can have 40%. Think about it. A large group of beautiful women surrounding you, drowning you in a sea of breasts. That feeling. Yu Yang couldn't help but fantasize. What did you say? His Majesty was angry. What sea of breasts? He knew that this brat did not have good intentions. Your Majesty, you hide in the harem every day. Don't tell me that you don't like beautiful women. Forget it. We are both men. I understand you. I'm sorry. I only said it because you're my bosom friend. I can't be bothered with that guy like Junwoo Yu. That's right. You might belong to the type that likes to play alone secretly. You should communicate more with others. Otherwise, if you continue like this for a long time, your mentality will definitely be unhealthy. Yu Yang patted his chest, expressing that a man should not be secretive. He should dare to say and love. And if he liked beautiful women, he should say it out loud. Get out. His Majesty was furious. He couldn't help but rush out of the tent and kick this brat out of the hall. He actually dared to say that he was the type that likes to play alone. He was simply courting death. Chapter 881. The beast bracelet still needed to be researched. Although the direction was right, there was still a long way to go before success. Before that, no matter how daring Yu Yang was, he would not dare to harass His Majesty again. His Majesty was probably very angry. Otherwise, he would not have rushed out and kicked Yu Yang away. Although he had Heaven Eye's divine vision, Yu Yang knew that it was rare for him to be muddle-headed. He pretended not to see the figure that rushed out and pretended not to know anything. Yu Yang originally wanted to stay here and do some research for a few days to produce some results, but the old fox pulled him away. This was an important time to promote the Dragon Knight army. How could they miss Yu Yang? Thus, one day later at dusk. What is that? It looks like a dark cloud, but its movement is too strange. It's not a dark cloud at all, it's a bird. My God, no, it's not a bird, it's a wyvern that covers the sky. The mercenaries who were resting in the plaza outside Tong Tian Tower saw a dark cloud surging over. When they got closer, they realized that it was thousands of wyverns. All kinds of wyverns covered the sky and covered the earth as they flew over. Even if they did not have any intention to attack, the mercenaries were so scared that they almost peed their pants. One wyvern was enough to destroy a mercenary group. How many wyverns were there? So many that it was impossible to count. There were at least 10,000 of them. If they were to attack, they could probably destroy a big city or even a country. The most terrifying thing was that among these 10,000 wyverns, there were hundreds of them. They were all gold-ranked wyvern kings. These wyvern kings were not only gold king beasts, but also had high intelligence. Each of them had the strength of a human warrior above the innate realm. The row of wyverns at the very front had knights on their backs. Some old, some young, some male, some female. Most of them were tall and sturdy female warriors. Many mercenary group leaders recognized these female warriors. They were the Heaven Realm female draconians under Third Young Master's command. They were powerful but very humble women. They were powerful but regarded themselves as servants and never fought for anything. However, they only recognized the Yu clan's Third Young Master as their master. Other than the Third Young Master, no one else in Tong Tian Tower could command them. The female martial artist riding on the fierce poison-flying Dragon King was Queen Shigu. Not far from Queen Shigu stood a wise sage on the back of a plasma wyvern. The mercenaries also recognized him as Ivy Academy's acting principal, Shui Donglu. He was a great sage who had become an important pillar of the innate alliance not long after becoming an innate. He was also one of the Yu clan's Third Young Master's teachers. Although Shui Donglu was not well known in the past, his strength was extraordinary and his wisdom was as vast as the sea. Tong Tian Tower had many outstanding talents, such as the Yu clan's Third Young Master, Shuetan Lang, Yin Pejun, Feng Qisha, Haida Fu, Yi Kong, Li Xie, Li Gu, and the others. They were all his disciples. Roar! Just as the mercenaries were looking up at the sky, wondering who had done this. High up in the sky, a dragon's roar suddenly rang out. A black dot was descending rapidly. A strong wind blew against his face. There was a kind of intimidating aura that no one could defend against. Not only the mercenaries felt it, everyone felt a strong sense of suffocation. The dragon's wings were as wide as 30 meters. When spread out, it was even bigger than the wingspan of 3 normal wyverns. Its golden scales looked like the sun, so dazzling that people could not open their eyes. The roar was like a bolt from the blue, causing the aura brought by the tens of thousands of wyverns to lose its splendor. The one that came out from the clouds was a platinum-ranked, level 10 golden giant dragon. It had already been thousands of years since an emperor-like beast had appeared in the soaring dragon continent. Who would have thought that today, other than the tens of thousands of wyverns, a golden giant dragon would actually descend? Furthermore, it was in the form of a mount. In the entire soaring dragon continent, who could ride a golden giant dragon that was heaven-ranked? Of course, it was the Yu clan's Third Young Master. Other than the Third Young Master, who else had such strength? Other than the Third Young Master, who else had such qualifications? Giant dragon, it really is a golden giant dragon. The mercenaries were excited. They were surprised and happy at the same time. They wanted to cheer, but they were worried that the noise would be disrespectful to the strong. When the golden giant dragon with the strength of heaven ranked appeared, the tens of thousands of wyverns immediately split their formation and automatically lined up. They lowered their heads and showed humility, paying their respects to a higher level being. When the heaven-ranked dragon lady saw Yu Yang appear on the dragon, hot tears flowed out of their eyes. Descending from the sky with a dragon, this was the heavenly dragon emperor in their hearts. They waved their shining weapons and shouted in unison. They shouted crazily, paying their respects to their master and celebrating the return of the legend that had been passed down from generation to generation. Heavenly Dragon Emperor had returned. He had originally disappeared in the legends. However, today he had returned with a completely new appearance. Descending from a sky with a dragon, he had returned. The shouts of the heaven realm dragon lady interweaved with the roars of the wyverns. The sound was earth-shattering, reaching the 9 heavens and shaking the entire earth. Below, regardless of whether it was a beast that could fly or a beast that could not, all of them automatically descended to the ground in front of the golden giant dragon that was ridden by the Yu clan's 3rd young master. With a respectful and fearful attitude, they paid their respects to this powerful being and expressed their humbleness to the super ranker that was riding it. They did not have the qualifications to pay their respects to the super ranker. This was because the emperor that they paid their respects to was only the mount of the super ranker. The ordinary merchants and servants were already paralyzed on the ground in fear. Under the intimidating dragon's might, even a casual glance would cause the weak ones to tremble in fear. The mercenaries were a little better. They were used to living on the edge of a knife, so even though they were afraid, they were more excited. Countless mercenaries couldn't help but kneel down and pay their respects to the godlike young man standing on the back of the heaven-ranked golden giant dragon with a kind of devotion that they had never felt before. What was a strong ranker? This was a true strong ranker. A true strong ranker. Everyone looked up at the sky. The golden giant dragon was shining under the sunlight of the setting sun. The light surrounded the man that everyone knew. Maybe the legendary omnipotent god was like this. No, it must be like this. The Yu clan's 3rd young master rode a heaven-ranked golden giant dragon like an emperor. He led tens of thousands of wyverns out of Tong Tian Tower and returned to the Dixia Empire. The Dixia Emperor, Jun Wu Yu, personally led everyone to welcome him. The 4 great clans' rankers have gathered again. Nearly 100 clans and magnates have come to welcome them. A series of explosive news exploded like a chain of cannons, spreading at the fastest speed. For a moment, almost all the cities, all the taverns, and all the public places were discussing this shocking news. There were no false exaggerations or false rumors. It was just an announcement from the 3 great guilds. The Warriors Guild, Mercenaries Guild, and Thieves Guild all had the same news. Yu clan's 3rd young master is preparing to build a Dragon Knight Legion. There are no restrictions on gender, status, strength, age, and so on. There are no restrictions on anything, just to find and develop more elites. Almost every tavern had a free advertisement posted on the door of the 3 great guilds. Quickly come and join the Dragon Knight Legion. What are you waiting for? The next elite is you. You may not know how much potential you have. You may never know what realm you will reach in the future, but it doesn't matter. As long as you are willing to take a step forward, you will have the life that you have always dreamed of. Even if you are trash, as long as you have an unwavering will, the 3rd young master will give you everything. You don't need to pay anything. As long as you have a heart that will always become stronger, you will be the next Dragon Knight or Dragon Bloodguard. If you've lost your ambition, why don't you let your children have a go? Maybe the next glorious Dragon Knight will be your children. Fathers who want their children to be successful. There's a good path in front of you. Your sons, they need this opportunity. Similar slogans could be seen in almost all public places. It would be a lie to say that they were not tempted. There had never been anyone as generous as the Yu clan's 3rd young master. Not only did he test people's potential for free, he even gave them a flying dragon and the glorious Dragon Knight identity. Most importantly, there had never been anyone like him who could give ordinary people a chance to turn over a new leaf. Even if he could not become a great Dragon Knight, it would be good if his children could enter and become one of them. Even if they could not become a great Dragon Knight, it would be better if their children could enter and become one of them, who would pity the ordinary people who were struggling to survive, who would give those bloodthirsty mercenaries a chance, who would take care of those refugees who were waiting for death in the slums. Since birth, other than the Yu clan's 3rd young master, Who else would give others a chance to turn over a new leaf? Who had the ability to do this? No one. Only the Yu clan's third young master. Only him. In the Soaring Dragon continent, not only was there a martial culture, there's also the will to survive, belief in destiny, and so on. Anyone who walked on the streets could see that the originally lifeless passers-by's eyes had a light that had never been seen before. It was a light of hope, a light that came from the bottom of their hearts. In the Disya Palace, Great Hall. You guys are putting me on the stage by doing this. I protest. I don't have much free time in the first place. Now that you guys are doing this, I am even busier. Yang was not as great as people thought he was. He was very unhappy with Junwu Yu and the old cunning fox's actions of promoting him. If it was not for Princess Sisai and Fallen Beauty's sake, he would have beaten these two old fellows up. Other than the most important occasions, you don't have to show up during normal times. You could do your own things. The old cunning fox quickly comforted Yu Yang, who was about to go berserk. It is said that to become a god, it is very important to have many people's faith. Junwu Yu also helped. Damn, do you think becoming a god is as easy as eating cabbages? Yu Yang was speechless. Isn't it just a matter of time? Junwu Yu chuckled. As his father-in-law, he did not argue with Yu Yang at all. Little Yu Yang, doing this is very meaningful. When Grandma Wu Tong spoke, Yu Yang had no other way. He truly respected this teacher, so he could only raise his hands and surrender, expressing that he would listen to everyone's arrangements. In order to reward the obedient Yu Yang, Princess Sisai kicked him lightly under the table. When Yu Yang went to look at her, she turned her head and purposely turned her face to chat with Yu Bing. However, the clever Yu Yang could still guess the message she was hinting at. Looks like Tigress would come to accompany him tonight. He was rich. Chapter 882. As a super ranker, it was necessary to rely on a clan. No matter how lonely or eccentric a dictator was, he would still have loyal supporters behind him. As the saying goes, it's better to be the head of a chicken than the back of a cow. Although there was some truth to it, it was only for those inexperienced and arrogant youngsters, or those who were alone and helpless, to have such thoughts. If one was in a big clan and was used to using family advantages and connections that ordinary people did not have, their thoughts would be completely different. Almost all of the clan's disciples hoped to be able to form an alliance with the strong. It would be best if they could become the subordinates of the strongest and have a big tree to rely on. Especially those clan leaders, and nobles who held the fate of a clan in their hands. The problems they had to consider would definitely be more profound than ordinary people. According to Fatty High's words, being the Cow Empress might not sound good. But what was the Cow Empress? That was awesome. Although Fatty High's words were a little meaningful, it was the truth. After complaining to Junwu Yu, Old Fox, and the others, Yu Yang knew that he couldn't be lazy anymore, so he accepted it in his heart. As a super ranker, there would definitely be countless people to rely on. Moreover, gathering everyone's resources and developing would be much better than fighting alone. It was better to have a group of loyal followers than to have a group of jealous competitors. He would take the best and leave the rest for them to eat. If this was not enough, he would be too stupid. Accompanied by Junwu Yu, Old Fox, and the others, he met with the representatives of the various clans in Tong Tian Tower, such as the Golden Elves, Tauren, Dwarves, Orcs, Toadmen, Dwarves, Netherworld Tribe, Demon Abyss Tribe, Eastern Goblin Tribe, and so on. Under the witness of many warrior guild and innate alliances decision-makers, under Elder Nangong's leadership, they signed a series of cooperation agreements. In fact, these were the agreements of the various clans in Tong Tian Tower. On the surface, the clans took the initiative to send their most outstanding disciples or juniors to serve in Yu Yang's Dragon Knight Army Reserve to cheer for Yu Yang's wedding. In fact, this was a show of goodwill and also a way to entrust their most outstanding disciples to Yu Yang, a super expert. It didn't matter if they were called Dragon Knights, as long as they were under Yu Yang's name, or it would be more accurate to say that everyone had the same chance to compete under Yu Yang's watch. As for the extent to which the descendants of the various races could erupt, and to what extent they could grow, This was not something they could control. I hereby announce that the Yu Yang Yu Titan Dragon Knight Corps is officially established today. Mr. Nangong loudly announced after Yu Yang signed the contract. He also held the contract high in the air. He represented Skysplit Tower and the innate alliance, becoming a witness to history. Pa 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 pa. The envoys and representatives of the various races all applauded excitedly. The significance of today's signing ceremony was extraordinary. He believed that 10,000 years later, the younger generation would also be grateful for the great deeds done by the predecessors. Before Yu Yang signed the contract, there had never been a race that was able to obtain such recognition from the other races of Tong Tian Tower. Even Queen Vivian Li, Prison Emperor Zhang Feng, and Princess Mian Yiming mainly accepted their own clans. Queen Vivian Li's recognition was the lowest. She 100% believed and recognized that only the Serpent clan was accepted. The others were either subservient or completely ignored. Princess Mian Yiming was the same. She only accepted the descendants of the Heaven Stairway and ignored the other clans. As long as the Prison Emperor Zhang Feng was slightly better, she would accept him normally. However, the most important thing was to accept humans, especially the human warriors of the Soaring Dragon Continent. Just like Yu Yang, he firmly believed that no matter if it was the Sea Clan or the Demon Clan, the Oxhead Clan or the Human Clan, the Gufeng Continent or the Ao Jia Continent, the first floor of Tong Tian Tower or the 10th floor of Tong Tian Tower, they would all be treated equally on paper. This was also the first time in history. Of course, the various clans knew that the Soaring Dragon Continent would receive the most attention, but they could completely understand. Absolute fairness was impossible. To be able to treat everyone equally in all aspects was already an unprecedented feat. Could the Golden Elves and the Toadmen really be treated equally? Even the most powerful fatty Jiada among the Toadmen, Yu Yang's Titan Guild's representative, when he saw the Golden Elves like Lin In, Anna, and Bao Er, he would still be able to suck up to them. The natural advantages of some clans could not be ignored. For example, if a rat man who was used to being a servant wanted to be treated equally with a heaven-ranked giant dragon, would that even be possible? I won't say any unnecessary words. I also don't like to speak empty words. Those irrelevant things will only waste our time. In this regard, I will only say one thing. As long as I, Yu Yang, have an outstanding talent from any clan, they will all be able to grow. I don't care how many geniuses Tong Tian Tower has, how many heaven rankers there are, because compared to the entire heaven realm, Tong Tian Tower is very weak. Weak to the point that it can be described as insignificant. All special envoys and representatives, please go back and convey my voice. All the ambitious youngsters, come, let's conquer the heaven realm together. No matter how long it takes, there will be a day when Tong Tian Tower will become the best in the heaven realm. If you think that this kind of life challenge is meaningful, then come. Yu Yang's words sent the representatives into a frenzy. Huh. Jun Wu Yu and the old fox looked at each other and laughed. The new prison emperor had finally reappeared in Tong Tian Tower, not only in the Soaring Dragon Continent, but also in the whole Tong Tian Tower. The rise of all the races was already without a doubt. In the beginning, the allied races actually wanted to wait a little longer. However, no one expected Yu Yang's cultivation level to rise so quickly. In the blink of an eye, he became an innate supremacy. Other people, even the most outstanding genius, like the prison emperor, who was a genius that only appeared once in 1,000 years, would need a few hundred years. This brat, on the other hand, quietly broke through to the innate realm. After 3 years, he successfully broke through to the elder innate realm. It was said that he was about to reach the legendary God realm. Although there were no precedents, no one doubted that an abnormal genius like Yu Yang would not be able to reach the holy elder realm. If they waited for Yu Yang to advance to the God realm, what would be the point if they foolishly ran over to attach themselves to him? At that time, forget about Tong Tian Tower. Even the heaven realm above would have people fighting to flatter him. If they attached themselves to him now, when Yu Yang advanced to the God realm in the future, then all the races that attached themselves to him would be heroes. Their status would be completely different. Conquering the heaven realm was a long journey. However, with this opportunity, would there be any need to worry about the rise of the various races in Tong Tian Tower? He believed that it was only a matter of time. After sending off the envoys from the various races, Yu Yang met with the tyrants of the various sects in the Soaring Dragon continent. Different from the former, these people had already tacitly agreed to be the Yu clan's subordinates. There was no need to say anything to them. He directly gave each of them a wyvern. Each family would be given a quota. Wyverns were summoned from the Wyvern Valley using the dragon whistle anyway, so it didn't cost a single cent. Furthermore, these wyverns also desired to follow a rancor and not grow old in the sealed Wyvern Valley. When Yu Yang brought Queen Shiga back to the Wyvern Valley, he didn't even need the dragon whistle to summon them. For the few hundred wyverns with potential, Yu Yang directly used the Heaven Realm's Quasi-Heaven Wyvern King's magic crystal and blood to help them level up to Wyvern King. As for the dozen wyverns with the most potential, Yu Yang generously bestowed them with real dragon blood, allowing them to directly level up to gold-ranked wyverns. When the wyverns heard that if they performed extremely well, they would be bestowed with ancient dragon blood, they went crazy with excitement on the spot. With the ancient dragon blood, wouldn't they be able to level up to the legendary heaven-ranked wyverns and flying dragon emperors? With the temptation and hope, the wyverns were naturally happy. Originally, even without all of this, they would still serve Yu Yang under the command of the Heaven Realm Dragon Woman. Furthermore, there was the ultimate temptation of the ancient dragon blood. Similarly, when Yu Yang tempted a giant gold dragon in the Heaven Realm, under the temptation of Yu Yang's fist and ancient dragon blood, the originally powerful giant gold dragon in the Heaven Realm yielded and became a mount in name. There was nothing bad about it. Normal beasts didn't even have the chance to become Yu Yang's mount. It would be great if it could truly become its master's mount. This was what the giant gold dragon thought, but also knew that it wouldn't be easy, because among Yu Yang's beasts, any one of them was much stronger than it. If it dared to say that it was Yu Yang's mount, it would be strange if Hui Tai Lang, Tao Tai, and Star Scorpio didn't eat it up. Yu Yang didn't need to deal with too many affairs. As the master, he didn't need to do anything. Otherwise, why would he need followers? After signing the contract and making the promise, Yu Yang left the hall, leaving behind the giant gold dragon and Princess Sisai to soak in the hot spring in Jun Wuyu's palace. Maybe knowing that a certain wolf and tigress were going to take action at night, Xuanyo, who didn't like to go out and only liked to read quietly, also expressed that she wanted to go with them. This almost shattered Yu Yang's dream of being alone. Big brother, I'm just trying to make a living. Is it easy to pick up girls? Don't stare at me like that, right? At most, I'll treat you to supper next time. While Tigress was changing her clothes, Yu Yang told Xuanyo everything, saying that Tigress had finally fallen in love with him. So please be magnanimous and let him live. It's not like I'm in your way. Shui Wuxiao expressed that she was just passing by. With you around, Tigress won't be able to let go. If she wants to take advantage of you, it'll be hard. Yu Yang would only tell Shui Wuxiao this kind of truth. Anyway, their minds were connected. As long as they wanted to feel each other, it didn't matter if he said it or not. What happened to Xiaonu? Shui Wuxiao smiled as she asked a question that everyone had almost forgotten. It's a long story. It won't be finished in 3 days and 3 nights. Yu Yang scratched the back of his head. It was fine if he pushed Xiaonu down, but he even got Pandora involved. Speak slowly, sir. This little girl will scrub your back. Is it comfortable like this? Shui Wuxiao put on an appearance of trying her best to serve him. Princess Sisai, who was draped in a bath towel, came out and sighed. Third young master is really lucky to have Miss Shui personally scrub his back. It's really enjoyable. She looked calm on the surface, but the sour taste in her voice could turn the whole hot spring into sour plum soup. Tigress, Xuanyo, don't think too much. Actually, it's like this. Yu Yang explained the situation in the Valley of Desire in detail. Of course, he only briefly mentioned the process of pushing her down. So it's like that. Princess Sisai imitated Yu Yang's tone and said. Then, She rewarded him with a coquettish hung and finally let him go. Pandora is quite pitiful. Let her come out and soak in the hot spring. We can also have a chat. Shui Wuxiao raised the last question, which was about the Reaper Mantis. After going through the Valley of Beasts, the Reaper Mantis sister had entered the door of rebirth and evolved into a human. Now, her strength had increased by countless times. She had surpassed holy beasts and was close to the realm of divine beasts. But she still owed a name. At that time in the Valley of Beasts, there were only her and Yu Yang. It didn't matter if she didn't need a name. Now that she had come out from the Valley of Beasts, Shui Wuxia and Princess Sisai felt that she needed a name. Only then would it be enough to show her respect. Yu Yang's few suggestions were all rejected by Princess Sisai. In the end, it was still Shui Wuxia who said, "The Reaper Mantis sister has always been the luckiest. When she was born, her siblings were all killed. She was the only survivor. After meeting you, she was reborn and grew stronger. In the end, she even had the chance to enter the door of rebirth in the Valley of Beasts. Not only did she obtain a human body, she also broke the records and obtained the enlightenment of the god's radiance and the wisdom fruit. The Reaper Mantis sister, she is so lucky." Princess Sisai was amused. "That's called luck?" Shui Wuxia shook her head. "Of course, this luck is because she followed the right master. With Yu Yang, she is everything so lucky. So, let's call her Future. She is a lucky person who has a future." "Thank you, Mistress Wuxia, for giving me a name." The Reaper Mantis sister flew out and landed on Shui Wuxia's shoulder. She kissed Shui Wuxia's face gratefully to express her gratitude. "Little thing, you could have imitated anyone, but you just had to imitate Grey Wolf, who likes to flatter." Princess Qian laughed. "Is Hui Tai Lang a weird wolf? It seems like its life is in danger." Xiaonu, who was taking over Shui Wuxia's job of scrubbing Yu Yang's back, suddenly said. Of course, this was not what she wanted to say. It was Pandora. Although the disaster, divine power, and goddess of misfortune's divinity had changed, her prophecy ability was still there. When Yu Yang heard this, he jumped up anxiously. "What's going on? How could it be in danger in a place like the soaring dragon continent? Oh no, it's going to Berry Sword Valley. Could it be that there's some undying existence in Berry Sword Valley?" Shui Wuxia and Princess Sisai looked at each other and said in unison, "Could it be that Lord Lai Hua?" Yu Yang was so anxious that he threw aside the erotic hot spring trip that he originally wanted to take advantage of. The two girls also knew that the situation was urgent and immediately helped Yu Yang to put on his clothes. They didn't even care that their towels had slipped off their bodies. Yu Yang opened his arms and hugged Shui Wuxia and Princess Sisai. He said apologetically and hurriedly, "I'll make it up to you guys to have a hot spring bath in the future. Today we have to save Hui Tai Lang first." Under the guidance of the Reaper Mantis sister, Future, the two girls and Xiaonu entered Yu Yang's grimoire world. They put on their clothes and equipped their swords, quickly preparing to fight the enemy with Yu Yang. As for Yu Yang, he used the three-realm compass and teleported to the outskirts of Berry Sword Valley as fast as he could. Chapter 883. The tunnels dug out by the mountain-drilling earthworm were twisted and turned. Many places, because of the abnormal energy, went in a big circle. It felt like walking into a maze. If it was in the past, Yu Yang would have excitedly tried to sense these areas with abnormal energy, trying to find out the truth of the past. But right now, he was so anxious that he couldn't care less about his surroundings. Like an arrow that had left the bow, he flew inside. "What's going on? What happened?" Eagle-eyed Xia Ho Wei Jie, who was in charge of guarding at the end, was startled when he saw Yu Yang rushing over. "Where's Hui Tai Lang?" Yu Yang found that other than the energy in the center, there was a terrifying energy whirlpool in the middle. He did not see Hui Tai Lang, so it should have entered the energy whirlpool. Xia Ho Wei Jie knew that Hui Tai Lang had entered. In fact, he was eating chicken drumsticks with Hui Tai Lang the day before. He thought that would be fine. With Hui Tai Lang's strength, it should not be a problem to explore the Berry Sword Valley. However, he did not expect that after a day, Yu Yang would come looking for him. His face was full of anxiety. He had never seen Yu Yang like this before. His whole body immediately tensed up. "I'll go in and open the way first." Yu Yang quickly stopped him. "It's dangerous inside. If you go in, your life will be in danger. You stay." Xiahou Weijie pulled out his sword with a clang and stopped Yu Yang with a solemn expression. Without Xiahou Weijie, the soaring dragon continent would be nothing, but it definitely cannot be without the Yu clan's third young master. "If you don't agree to let me open the way, I'd rather die in front of you." "All right, be careful." Yu Yang looked at Xiahou Weijie and saw that he was extremely insistent. He could only nod his head in agreement. Just as Xiahou Weijie turned around and was about to rush into the energy whirlpool, Yu Yang suddenly launched a sneak attack. A palm strike landed on the back of his neck. Xiahou Weijie focused all his attention on the energy whirlpool, completely ignoring Yu Yang's vigilance. Moreover, even if he was on guard, with the difference in strength between him and Yu Yang, he would not be able to withstand a sneak attack from Yu Yang. Actually, if Yu Yang didn't lie to him, he could also forcefully knock him out. However, he was worried that if he used too much force, this eagle-eyed man would be gravely injured. "Ha!" Xiahou Weijie's body suddenly froze, and he slowly fell to the ground. Yu Yang waved a palm wind and cleverly blew his body into the tunnel 100 meters away. He took another deep breath and suppressed the worries in his heart. He restored himself to the unmoving state of mind of an innate supremacy and entered the energy vortex in his best state. The energy vortex completely penetrated through the restrictions of space, chaotically connecting several dimensional spaces. There was almost no way for Yu Yang to make a choice. Using his fastest speed, he entered the first dimensional space. He discovered that the world inside was not that big. Furthermore, the entire space was mutated by an unknown energy, becoming extremely terrifying. It was like a barrel of gunpowder. Even the slightest abnormality would cause a destructive explosion. The second dimensional space he chose was a broken space, probably formed from the sky of the Burial Sword Valley, but it was in a state of destruction. Yu Yang quickly escaped from inside, his clothes completely shredded by the broken space and the energy vortex, turning into ashes and disappearing. Yu Yang explored 6 mutated spaces in a row, but found nothing. In some of the spaces, he found some remnants of ruins. Perhaps those were the buildings of the Burial Sword Villa back then. Yu Yang didn't have the time to study these ancient buildings that existed under the ground. He knew that they might be destroyed the next moment because of his intrusion, but he couldn't care so much. Nothing could compare to Grey Wolf's life. Although Yu Yang usually scolded and shouted at Grey Wolf, kicking him a few times even if he was unhappy, in his heart, Grey Wolf was definitely not as simple as a guard dog. To a certain extent, he and Grey Wolf were very similar. At least in terms of tenacious survival, they were very similar. As a man from another world, Yu Yang, in order to survive, in order to stand out, he had put in a lot of hard work. Perhaps other than Shui Wuxia and Princess Sisai, no one else knew. Even Jun Wu Yu and the old fox. Although they knew that Yu Yang was very hardworking, they still felt that Yu Yang was an inestimable, peerless genius. He didn't need to train like others, but he could still improve crazily. In reality, Yu Yang was only lazy on the surface. The hard work he put in behind people's backs was definitely more than anyone of the same age in the world. The laziness on the surface was just a disguise to deal with the world. He was indeed a genius, but he improved so quickly and improved so quickly. The most important reason was because of his hard work. On this point, Grey Wolf was also the same. At first glance, Hui Tailang seemed to be the most lazy beast. Other than playing petty tricks and flattering people, it was usually sleeping soundly. However, it was the most outstanding beast among all the beasts other than Xiao Wenli. It was also the first to level up to become a divine beast. Actually, the hard work that Grey Wolf put in to grow and struggle in battle was something that ordinary beasts would never be able to do. Like Yu Yang, it had a very strong sense of crisis. It was always worried that if it didn't work hard enough, it would lose everything that it had now in the future. Even though it had become a mythical beast, Gray Wolf didn't show off, nor did it become arrogant. In order to improve, it never saw itself as a high and mighty mythical beast. It didn't see itself as a world-destroying demon wolf that could swallow the world, but as a guard dog that would lose everything if it lost its master. It was precisely because it always placed itself on the edge of safety that it would never feel satisfied with its current situation. There was no contract but one man and one beast. The two of them had a sense of dependence and resonance. Seeing Gray Wolf, Yu Yang seemed to see another version of himself. That kind of struggle for survival was exactly the same. Gray Wolf was even more so. Seeing its master was like seeing hope for the future. If it didn't have this master who gave it everything, then the model that it admired and the goal that it always chased after would disappear. The entire world would become a completely different world. Only the Yu clan's third young master, who looked down on the world, would there be Gray Wolf that looked down on all beasts. While Yu Yang was anxiously looking for Gray Wolf was also thinking about its master. Rumble! Gray Wolf's mouth was swallowing a 5,000 meters long, 800 meters wide, and 300 meters tall war beast, volcano whale. Even with its ability as a world-destroying demon wolf, it couldn't swallow such a huge creature. The volcano whale's level was as high as Heaven Stage Level 6. What terrified Gray Wolf the most was that the volcano whale's strength in this sea of fire was far more than Heaven Stage Level 6. Once it returned to the Sea of Fire, it would be the beginning of its own failure. Gray Wolf, who was already heavily injured, had no second choice. It could only use the ability that it was born with, the most extraordinary ability, and that was the world-destroying Devour. It swallowed the front end of the volcano whale's head into its stomach and used the strength of its neck to raise the volcano whale, which was thousands of meters long, high up, not giving it a chance to return to the Sea of Fire. This was the only way to restrain this volcano whale that could easily devour him. The volcano whale naturally struggled with all its might, but Gray Wolf remained motionless like a mountain. If there was no third party, only him and the volcano whale, Gray Wolf had enough patience to exhaust this enormous volcano whale. Even if it was slowly digested, it could still succeed after a few hundred years or even 1,000 years. Ha 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 ha! Ha ha ha! A smug laughter reverberated throughout the entire Sea of Fire. Every burst of laughter caused a sea of fire to stir up 1,000 feet of flame waves. The owner of this laughter was a giant that was nearly 1,000 meters tall and was completely made up of ultimate flames. It was even taller than the Titan giant that Gray Wolf had seen before. It was the owner of the volcano whale, perfected Lord Lihua. Although his human body had been completely destroyed, perfected Lord Lihua's powerful soul and extraordinary, well, that was comparable to that of a god, easily reconstructed the ultimate flames that his body had cultivated. The entire Sea of Fire was not only his innate ability, but also his domain power. In this Sea of Fire, he and his summoned beasts were invincible existences. If it wasn't for the fact that he was bent on subduing Gray Wolf, perfected Lord Lihua wouldn't have just summoned a volcano whale to fight. There's no point in struggling. Submit to me. Even without a human body, perfected Lord Lihua still had the strength of a level 8 innate supremacy. His remaining strength was not inferior to that of the 9 Glory Clan's heavenly empress who had led the crowd to destroy the Tower of Babel. In some aspects, he even surpassed her. Gray Wolf's mouth, throat, and stomach were filled to the brim with the volcano whale's mouth. The excessive devouring made it unable to make any sound. I already understand your persistence and your intentions. Yes, I don't want to hide my preferences. In short, I admire you very much. Think about it. You and I are actually the best combination. You're the world-exterminating demon wolf, and your main attribute is fire. I'm perfected Lord Lihua, who was once only a step away from becoming a god. If I become a fire god in the future, you'll be the mount of the fire god, the strongest fire god beast in the world other than me. Your willpower and wisdom surprised me, but I also felt a natural joy and admiration for you. You were able to come up with a countermeasure against the volcano whale in such a short period of time, and you still dare to swallow it boldly with me, your master, watching from the side. Sign a contract with me and be my war beast. I will give you the best in the world. No matter what you need, I will satisfy you. I dare say that you're the beast of fate that resurrected me from the flames. You're the opportunity for me to become a god in the future. Perfected Lord Lihua persuaded while patiently imprinting the contract on Grey Wolf's forehead. Grey Wolf had no other choice but to resist with his willpower. Maybe you're not used to being under people, or maybe you're testing my patience. Ha ha ha. Let me tell you, after I escaped from the seal, I've stayed here for 10,000 years, and I've never had a trace of boredom. My patience is beyond ordinary people. Moreover, I'm sure you know that people with sovereign will won't change their minds easily. Come, let's sign a contract. We're really the best combination in the world. Perfected Lord Lai Hoa persuaded over and over again with incomparable patience. Grey Wolf refused over and over again. When perfected Lord Lai Hoa attacked his mind with his powerful mental strength, he used his longing for Yu Yang as a shield to resist the impact of the other party's sovereign will. If only his master was here. With him around, even if he just randomly kicked over, it would be much easier to replenish a little energy. This guy was too long-winded. His mouth was like a toothless old woman. Master was still the best. He scolded and beat as he pleased. He did things straightforwardly and without any hesitation. If his master was here, he wondered if he would be very angry. He had caused trouble again this time. If he had known that this guy was so powerful, he would have escaped earlier. Grey Wolf knew that his master, who was busy with the wedding, would not come a short time, but he still wanted to see him suddenly appear in front of him and give him a big surprise. Even if he was already a divine beast, he could completely take charge. But that kind of habitual dependence, it was still indispensable. Chapter 884. When Yu Yang entered a mutated space, little Wenli suddenly came out. Her expression was serious. She even stared at the front nervously. Yu Yang did not know how long it had been since he saw her like this, especially after she inherited the information from her previous life in Conqueror City and recovered part of her memory. Her willpower was even more indestructible. Now, it could actually make her nervous. Could it be? Yu Yang carefully sensed his surroundings and knew that something was wrong. The entire space seemed to belong to someone else's domain. The mutated energy had completely turned this place into a world of fire. But the strange thing was, even a god could not have such a huge domain, right? Even with Yu Yang's heaven-eyes divine vision, he could not see the end of this sea of fire. Beneath his feet was a sea of fire. It was boundless. Countless volcanoes were hidden at the bottom of the sea. From time to time, a rain of lava would erupt into the sky. The rolling thick smoke and volcanic ash covered the sky. Even Yu Yang couldn't see what was above the inky black clouds. He could only sense that there was a completely different kind of energy. The high temperature of the air was like a burning knife that pierced into his lungs. The thick sulfur gas and the unique burnt smell of the fire were very choking. This place is a bit like someone else's domain, but the domain can't be this big. Also, if this is the embodiment of domain power, then we should feel a kind of willpower restriction. Yu Yang could not see through this strange, mutated world. Out of caution, he summoned Princess Sisai and Shui Wuxia to discuss with them. I feel very uneasy. A very strong, destructive energy is devouring this world. Princess Sisai frowned. The Book of Truth does not show any obvious signs. Shui Wuxia flipped through the Book of Truth and shook her head. You guys go back first. If we really can't win, I can run faster by myself. Yu Yang was not the kind of stupid person who would die if he could not win. He was the kind of smart person who would slowly kite his opponent to death if he could not win. This kind of tactic, to put it nicely, would be patient harassment. To put it bluntly, he was a wretched and despicable escort. In short, no matter what, it was impossible for Yu Yang to fight head-on with the enemy when he was not powerful enough. He was not a silly kid who would lose his IQ when he was angry. Even if he was powerful enough to defeat the enemy, he would pretend to be weak and let the enemy get complacent and show his weakness. He was a shameless person who would hurt the enemy with one move. He sneered at things like fair duels and knight's honor. Yu Yang's style was to arrange his enemies' corpses into 18 different positions, then stand on them and sing "I hurt you," then laugh it off. Princess Sisai used to look down on his shameless behavior. However, after experiencing so many things, she realized that each enemy was stronger than the last. If she had been an obedient child, Yu Yang wouldn't have been able to survive even if he had 100 lives. Gradually, she started to agree with his battle strategy. In the end, she fully cooperated with his tactical needs. As for Shui Wuxia, no matter what tactics they used, the final victory was the king's way. To a certain extent, her thoughts were similar to Yu Yang's. Before returning to the grimoire world, Shui Wuxia suddenly mentioned a possibility. "You said that this is a domain. I think it's possible." Princess Sisai was shocked. If this is a domain, then who is the owner of this domain? Even a god wouldn't have such a huge domain, right? Shui Wuxia nodded. "We have never seen a god's domain before, so let's not talk about it for now. However, if the Sea of Fire is a domain, I think it's possible. However, it's not a spiritual manifestation of the domain, but a special characteristic or manifestation of some kind of power. If this Sea of Fire is a manifestation of the power of a domain that can control flames perfectly, then it can be explained. In the beginning, this Sea of Fire was normal. It might only be slightly larger than our domain, but it wasn't too exaggerated. However, if this person who had perfect control over fire used the power of this domain to expand month after month, year after year, without anyone stopping it, the Sea of Fire would gradually expand until it became what it is today." After listening, Yu Yang fell into deep thought. After a long time, he nodded in agreement. "That's right. This is most likely the expansion of Lord Lai Hua's domain. Because this is a real domain, it's an extension of the Sea of Fire's energy, so it doesn't have the suppression of willpower like other domains." Princess Sisai also reacted. "If that's the case, then you have to be extra careful. This Sea of Fire is very dangerous." Shui Wuxia said, "Yes, although this Sea of Fire doesn't have willpower suppression, it definitely has an amplifying effect on its owner. This is because this person is most likely an expert in controlling flames, and is most likely Lord Lai Hua. Therefore, I don't recommend using Nirvana Flame immediately. Let's not discuss the effect of using Nirvana Flame for now. For an expert in controlling flames, once they see Nirvana Flame, they will definitely try their best to snatch it. If they can't snatch it, they will use all means to destroy the owner of Nirvana Flame. To avoid this, I think it's best not to use Heaven's Fury Fire Lotus easily. It's best to use Frost and Purple Lightning instead." Yu Yang listened to this extremely far-sighted suggestion. In order to prevent any accidents from happening and not being able to escape in time, he persuaded little Wen Li to go back. If Grey Wolf wasn't here, Yu Yang wouldn't want to fight with an old man like Lord Lai Hua at all. He would definitely run away the moment he saw him. If he was here, Yu Yang planned to use the three-realm compass to escape from this damned Sea of Fire after saving him. In this kind of place, fighting with Lord Lai Hua or an old man like him was simply an arduous and unrewarding task. Grey Wolf wouldn't be so stupid as to enter this Sea of Fire and take the initiative to provoke Lord Lai Hua, right? He has always been a coward, so he shouldn't be here. Yu Yang muttered to himself. The more he explored the Sea of Fire, the more shocked he was. This Sea of Fire wasn't just a few dozen kilometers in radius. It was really a world of its own. Yu Yang consecutively teleported more than 10 times and flew a distance of nearly 1,000 kilometers. However, he still couldn't see the edge of the Sea of Fire. Phew! Just when Yu Yang was about to look for Shui Wuxia and Princess Sisai to discuss it again, Spirit of Heaven Fire, who had received the chaotic energy and the divine power of disaster in the Desire Valley of Heaven Realm, suddenly came out. She, who was originally used to break through in the Beast Valley, finally woke up from her deep sleep. With the perfect combination of the world's purest Nirvana Flame, the chaotic energy of the origin of the universe, and the most destructive divine power of disaster. She had now evolved into a new super elemental war beast, Spirit of Chaos. Perhaps it was because she had sensed a great amount of fire energy, which made her, who had just evolved, feel instinctively hungry. She moved her hands, and the sea of fire within a radius of 10 kilometers all formed a concentrated fire pillar, soaring into the sky. That kind of spectacular scene. Not to mention outsiders. Even Yu Yang had never seen it before. A raging flame soared into the sky, and hundreds of millions of waterfalls flowed back to the sky, and finally flowed endlessly into the body of Spirit of Chaos. Because she had the chaotic energy that could absorb the heat of all the raging flames in the world, she, who had evolved from Spirit of Heaven Fire to Spirit of Chaos, had an infinite stomach that could swallow all the flames in the world. No matter how many flames came, she did not refuse them and absorbed them crazily. The sea of fire under her feet had an unknown amount of heat energy. Spirit of Chaos had already drawn out the fire waterfall within a radius of 10 kilometers, but compared to the entire sea of fire, it was just a drop in the ocean. It was an extremely slight disappearance. Well, wait until we find Grey Wolf, then slowly absorb it. I asked you to help before, but you went asleep. Now that I don't need your help, you came out to help. Yu Yang reprimanded Spirit of Chaos. Phew, Spirit of Chaos self-control had always been very poor. But if there was one person in the world who could command her, it would be Yu Yang. Facing a sea of fire, it was like a person who had been hungry for 3 days and 3 nights seeing a food street. Even if it was Yu Yang's criticism, she still inhaled dozens of mouthfuls of pure heat energy before she reluctantly stopped. Yu Yang asked her to go back to the grimoire world. Although Spirit of Chaos strength had skyrocketed after her evolution, her self-control did not improve significantly. She shook her head and refused Yu Yang's request. She might be worried that once she went back, Yu Yang would not summon her again. Although she could not stop Yu Yang from going forward to find Grey Wolf, she was reluctant to go back. Just like a hungry person who did not dare to steal delicious food in front of her, she was also reluctant to leave. There was really no way to deal with her. Yu Yang shook his head and finally brought her with him. Among the many war beasts, she was the most worrisome one. With her weak self-control, it was already amazing that she could not absorb the fire energy in the face of the sea of fire. Phew! Spirit of Chaos followed Yu Yang to teleport a few times. Suddenly, she pointed to the southeast with her flaming finger, indicating that she had sensed Grey Wolf's existence. Yu Yang was surprised. He had not sensed Grey Wolf yet. How did she sense it? No matter what, he was an innate elder. Moreover, he had the Heaven Eyes divine vision. How could he lose to Spirit of Chaos, who had just evolved? One must know that her previous senses were the worst among all the war beasts. Spirit of Chaos' eyes gradually condensed into a delicate human face after her evolution. Suddenly, there was a burst of blazing flame that represented anger. Then, under the gaze of Yu Yang, she waved a wave of energy that carried the power of disaster towards the sea of fire. In an instant, the whole sea of fire immediately rolled up a huge, flaming tornado that was thousands of meters high and dozens of meters in diameter, sweeping towards the distant southeast at an extremely fast speed. Yu Yang understood that in this sea of fire, Spirit of Chaos was also strengthened by the fire energy. Presumably, she had sensed Grey Wolf's existence through the sea of fire. Through Spirit of Chaos attack, Yu Yang also captured a piece of information. There was an enemy. Grey Wolf was fighting, and the enemy was very strong. Grey Wolf should be trapped in a hard fight. Otherwise, Spirit of Chaos would not be so eager to help from so far away. Did Grey Wolf really encounter Lord Laihua? This damn dog, wouldn't it run away when it saw that kind of old bastard? The more Yu Yang thought about it, the angrier he felt. He had really provoked true Lord Laihua. If it wasn't for Pandora's prophecy ability, he would have died in this world of fire. Go, you are responsible for blocking the enemy. When Grey Wolf is rescued, we will teach him a good lesson. He hasn't been beaten for a long time, and his skin is itching. Yu Yang was happy and angry at the same time. He took the lead and rushed out. Together with Spirit of Chaos, they chased after the fire tornado that was getting bigger and faster. They made use of the fire tornado that carried the power of disaster to hide themselves, and at the same time, they improved their state to the peak. Although he did not know how powerful Lord Lihol was, seeing that he could create this sea of fire, Yu Yang felt that this battle might be the most difficult one in his life. Chapter 885. Yu Yang had never seen such a situation before. When he saw Hui Tai Lang, he was completely stunned. A mountain of flesh that was even taller than the Iron Ridge peak outside, towered into the sky, occasionally spewing out volcanic lava and volcanic ash. If Yu Yang didn't have Heaven Eye's divine vision, he definitely wouldn't be able to tell that this fellow was also a war beast. No matter who looked at it, they would think that it was a volcano and not a war beast, but it was the legendary volcano whale, a war beast that no longer existed in Tong Tian Tower. Yu Yang finally saw it. He had never thought that he would see it in such a way. Under the mountain of flesh that was almost impossible to look up at, Yu Yang discovered that Hui Tai Lang, who had become a few hundred meters tall, was like a fool. He opened his mouth wide, bit the front of the volcano whale's lips, raised his head, and pushed the prehistoric monster volcano whale into the sky. Oh my God! Yu Yang was shocked by Hui Tai Lang's actions. Even if you want to bite, shouldn't you find a smaller target? How could he swallow a prehistoric beast that was thousands of meters long? Moreover, this volcano whale was at the 6th level of Heaven's stage. Even if it didn't struggle with its strength, wasn't digesting it a little too whimsical? The worst thing was that this was their home ground. Although the sea of fire couldn't burn Hui Tai Lang, it did little to him. As for the volcano whale, it was born to survive in the sea of fire. He really didn't know how Hui Tai Lang lifted the volcano whale up, but this method was definitely drinking poison to quench his thirst. Rumble, 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 rumble. A huge whirlpool suddenly appeared in the sea of fire beneath Yu Yang's feet. The burning magma spun like water, and the whirlpool appeared beneath Yu Yang's feet. It was thousands of meters wide, and it was exceptionally spectacular. There seemed to be a human face faintly flashing under the whirlpool. Without waiting for Yu Yang to take a closer look, an unimaginably large human face suddenly broke out of the sea. It opened its mouth full of lava and sharp teeth and viciously bit towards him. In comparison, although this human face couldn't be compared to the volcano whale in the distance, it was still a giant monster. When it opened, its mouth was bigger than a football field. Moreover, that ugly and greedy mouth had an irresistible attractive force that sucked in flames, magma, smoke, lava, and everything else. The speed of the sneak attack was extremely fast. Before Yu Yang could react, the mouth had already closed and swallowed both Yu Yang and the chaotic spirit. The human-faced monster rushed out of the sea of fire. Only then did Grey Wolf realize that there was another enemy. He had been sneakily hiding under the sea of fire and did not show himself. In Grey Wolf's eyes, the true appearance of this human-faced monster that had been hidden for a long time was finally revealed. It turned out that it was a fisher-like fish that looked like a human face. Apart from a disproportionately large mouth, this odd-faced demonic fish that looked like a burning rock had a fire-rope tentacle on its head. There was even a ball of light emitting pure energy at the end of the fire-rope tentacle. The strange-faced fisherman fish that created the whirlpool to launch a sneak attack, then jumped out of the sea of fire to devour Yu Yang. It proudly fell back into the sea of fire. It was preparing to use its powerful tail to slap the sea of fire and lava, preparing to dive back and continue to ambush the next enemy. Suddenly, the mouth that had just swallowed the junk swelled up. Just like a volcanic eruption, the strange-faced fisherman fish suddenly opened its huge mouth and spewed out countless waves of flames. The flaming tornado that floated over from afar and was about to disappear suddenly became 100 times stronger. It sucked the entire sea of fire into the air. The strange-faced fisherman fish did not have time to escape into the depths of the sea of fire and was sucked into the air by the flaming tornado. Even though the strange-faced fisherman fish was a sea of fire creature that reached heaven rank level 4, it was still not enough in front of the disguised flaming tornado that carried the power of disaster. The chaotic spirit angrily looked at the strange-faced fisherman fish that came out of its mouth and raised its hand. Several golden lightning bolts struck. They smashed down from a high altitude. It directly landed on the head of the weird-faced fisherman fish that was inside the flaming tornado. The weird-faced fisherman fish once again vomited crazily, spitting out all the rubbish that it had swallowed previously. However, Hui Tai Lang could not see Yu Yang's figure. What are you looking at? Do you really think that this young master will be eaten by a broken fish? Yu Yang's real figure appeared on top of Grey Wolf's head. Under its pleasantly surprised gaze, Yu Yang gave it a ruthless kick. This heavy kick was so familiar. It was so timely again. Grey Wolf had obtained the greatest help from Yu Yang. Whether it was courage or strength, it was several times stronger than before. Master had arrived, and it finally did not have to hold on anymore. Grey Wolf immediately spat out the volcano whale that it had just bitten, let go of the terrifying mountain of flesh that it could not swallow, and regained its freedom. Only now did it understand the value of freedom. In fact, that kind of stalemate was mutually uncomfortable. The volcano whale was depressed, but Grey Wolf did not feel good either. Especially under the premise that Supreme Lai Ho was constantly using his spiritual power to force the contract. It felt that every second was like a year. Grey Wolf relied on the innate chi and the power of the small law that Yu Yang transmitted to it, and immediately grew twice as big. With a powerful headbutt, it fiercely knocked away the volcano whale that had fallen like a mountain of flesh. Grey Wolf really wanted to tell Yu Yang immediately. The biggest enemy was not the volcano whale, but Supreme Lai Hua, who had just hidden and launched a sneak attack. That guy was the most terrifying existence. However, it did not have time to speak. Other than a headbutt that became bigger, it used its entire body to block the sky above Yu Yang's head, subconsciously blocking the possible heavy blow from Supreme Lai Hua for its master. Boom! A giant flaming palm drilled out of the sea of fire without warning and slapped Grey Wolf away. The first thing he did after successfully attacking was to take advantage of the situation and close his gigantic palm, as if he wanted to pinch Yu Yang to death like an ant. He wanted to pinch Yu Yang, who was extremely small in comparison. Compared to Supreme Lai Hua's palm, Yu Yang was even smaller than an ant. No matter how one looked at it, he looked like a monkey that could not jump out of the palm of Buddha. The palm closed. He forcefully strangled it into a fist. The high-temperature flames that were squeezed out were thousands of degrees higher than the sea of fire. It had reached the ultra-high temperature that could melt gold and stones and vaporize everything. Grey Wolf, who had been slapped away, was about to fly back. The volcano whale that had fallen into the sea of fire immediately recovered its combat power. With a fierce whip of its tail, Grey Wolf, who had been hit, was swept away like a meteor and disappeared into the sky. Supreme Lai Hua came out of the sea of fire, but there was no joy on his face of killing the enemy. Instead, he had a strange look on his face. He looked at his right hand formed by fire energy. He was surprised to find that the fist that was strangling the enemy was unexpectedly frozen. The fingers and palm that were originally high-temperature flames were frozen bit by bit in the form of flames. From the inside to the outside, it slowly spread until the whole right hand was frozen. Supreme Lai Hua's eyes flashed with a kind of humiliating anger. Except for that sworn enemy of his, he had never let his enemy's hand be frozen before. No, even that sworn enemy of his had not been able to do this. In the past, he did not have the enhancement of the sea of fire and the fire elemental body. A person who could control fire perfectly was actually frozen by his enemy. Wasn't this a disgrace? Supreme Lai Hua's will exploded, and the whole frozen fist was instantly crushed. The ice shards that filled the sky were all turned into nothingness by his angry breath of flames. Only Yu Yang, who had been strangled just now, was still standing there leisurely. The corners of his lips were still maintaining the original smile. It was as if nothing had happened, and everything was normal. Who are you? Supreme Lai Hua was a little confused about Yu Yang's identity, but he could guess that this weird young man should know Grey Wolf. Otherwise, he would not have risked his life to save it. Moreover, Grey Wolf immediately became spirited at the sight of him and completely rejected the spiritual pincer. Who I am is not important. What's important is you. Who are you? Don't you know that Grey Wolf is my watchdog? You want to catch my dog? You're clearly looking for a fight. Yu Yang put on a look of, I'm a little hooligan, and I am asking you if you are afraid. However, Supreme Lai Hua frowned at such nonsense. It is your watchdog? Nonsense. You did not contract it at all. Supreme Lai Hua was a little uncertain. Could it be that after 10,000 years, another super expert, like immortal buried sword, appeared in the Tower of Babel? This guy looked like a playboy. If he was not a second generation, it was impossible for him to have such strength at such a young age. However, this guy did not seem to want to lie. If the watchdog used a divine beast, then the master behind it must really be an expert like immortal buried sword. There were many experts in the Tower of Babel, so it was not strange that after 10,000 years, a powerful person appeared. Supreme Lai Hua, who originally wanted to kill Yu Yang, was afraid that he would provoke a powerful enemy if he acted too hastily. Therefore, he suppressed his anger and asked, Who are you? You saw me, a senior expert, but you did not salute respectfully. Is this what your parents taught you? My parents only taught me to be careful when I see people with ulterior motives and to be civilized and polite. For a senior who sneak attacked me, I think it is not too late to salute after finding out his identity. I don't care if you are a divine emperor or a lunatic. I don't know you. Who are you? Yu Yang asked with a cold smile. After I capture you, I will definitely tell you. Supreme Lai Hua expanded his consciousness to cover the whole sea of fire. In the end, he found that there was no other enemy in the sea of fire except for Yu Yang. This was a little kid who had left home and entered his own territory. Without the protection of an adult, he did not need to worry too much. Maybe he was a little impatient to kill him, but it was necessary to capture him and interrogate him slowly to figure out the outside world. This guy's ice attribute energy was very strong. If he was a descendant of his enemy, he could not let him go. However, that enemy had died with him many years ago, so there should not be any descendants left. Maybe he was a rising star among the later generations. There were many talents in the Tower of Babel. Every year, there would be one or several super experts. This was very normal. It would be strange if there were none. Supreme Lai Hua felt threatened and excited. If there were no stronger opponents than him among the later generations, didn't it mean that the whole Tower of Babel would belong to him? Today, he had to capture this guy and interrogate him about the current situation of the Tower of Babel. If there were no more experts who were stronger than him in the Tower of Babel, it was time for him to go out and take control of the whole Tower of Babel. Kid, let this divine lord teach you what manners are on behalf of your elders. Supreme Lai Hua laughed wildly. Maybe the super expert who trained this guy was a little tricky, but this kid who had the support of an adult was not a threat to him at all. Chapter 886. Dong Dong. While true immortal Lai Hua and Yu Yang were testing each other, the spirit of chaos had already started fighting with the fishermen. With the strength of the spirit of heaven fire, it was impossible for the spirit of chaos to fight against the heaven-ranked level 4 fisher. However, things are different now. After absorbing the energy of chaos and the divine power of disaster in the Valley of Desire, she had evolved into a chaos specter with a super elemental body. Now, in addition to the nirvana flame that could never be extinguished, she also had the chaos energy that was the source of energy, as well as the disaster divine power that was the most destructive power in the world. The three of them were perfectly combined in her body, making her the newly evolved chaotic spirit, one of the strongest beasts under Yu Yang's command. The fisherman's fish was also unlucky to meet her. There was no advantage to speak of. The most powerful devouring ability had no effect on her, a super elemental body. Even if she swallowed the specter of chaos in her stomach, it would only make her stomach a mess. It turned out that the fire energy, which had always been effective in killing, was even better than a tonic for the chaos specter. Burning her with fire was equivalent to treating her to a meal. The chaos specter wished that the fire could be as big and fierce as possible. The third ability of the fisher fish was very fatal to other beasts. It was a powerful mental deceiving ability called Flash Stun Lure. However, it was completely useless against the chaotic spirits. As a spirit of chaos, she did not have any rich human emotions or visual illusions that could be deceived. No matter how dazzling Lucian was, she just turned a blind eye to it. On the contrary, the chaotic specters had all kinds of restraining abilities against the fishers, which were of a higher level and larger size. If it was still the spirit of heaven fire in the past, if she had not absorbed the chaotic energy of a universe source from Yu Yang, her absorption of fire energy would not have been as limitless as it was now. That was not the most important thing. What made the fisherman even more unlucky was that the spirit of chaos was also able to control a little bit of the divine power of disaster. Even if it was just a little, with the might of the godly power, it was enough to make the fisherman, who had been unlucky for 18 lifetimes, suffer the consequences. Hoo-hoo! Roar! Ah! The spirit of chaos tightly locked the fishman in the fire tornado that she controlled. The fire and wind blades could not harm the fishman, but the divine power of disaster was slowly seeping into it. No matter how stupid the fisherman was, it knew that it was going to be unlucky. It desperately unleashed a blast wave to shake off the spirits of chaos that were constantly extracting the fire energy from its body. It was determined to escape from this flaming tornado. However, this flaming tornado was a bit like the domain of the spirit of chaos. Under her will, the fisherman could not escape easily. If it weren't for the volcano whale that came to its rescue and whipped the fisherman into the air with its tail, it would have been sucked dry by the spirit of chaos and turned into a dried fish. This spirit beast is yours. Immortal Lai Hua was about to attack Yu Yang, but the moment he saw the chaotic specter, he immediately revealed a greedy look, like a pirate who saw treasure. In the depth of its eyes, there was a hint of regret. How good would it be if this chaotic spirit was not a guardian beast? A super elemental beast like this was more suitable for him than the demon wolf. With the divine power of disaster as its hair and the chaotic energy as its body, this kind of super elemental spirit beast was simply a dream beast. The most important thing was that she had the nirvana flame as her soul. That was the nirvana flame. Although it was only a trace, it was enough. With that trace of eternal flame, she would be an existence that would never die. How could such a beast belong to someone else? He had worked so hard to find and train it for so many years, but in the end, he could not compare to a young kid. That demon wolf had limitless potential. Before it had fully matured, it was already a divine beast. This spirit of chaos also had limitless potential. Chaos energy, divine power of disaster, and nirvana flame. Even if he had any of the three, he would still be an immeasurable existence. Now that he had all three of them and combined them perfectly, how could he survive? You must die. Immortal Lai was stared at Yu Yang with hatred. Why? Yu Yang pretended to be puzzled. These two beasts have fallen into your hands. Their treasured weapons have been covered in dust. All the good things have been wasted by you. For a beast like the demon wolf, you actually used it as a watchdog and even kicked it. Look at this chaotic specter. As a guardian beast, you actually did not use your willpower to guide and train it. Instead, you let it act on its own. Immortal Laihua's anger was like a tycoon who saw a poor kid from the slums using Dragon Balls to hit marbles. He could not stand it, not even for a second. Damn, jealousy needs to be cured. You are a senior. Yu Yang raised his middle finger and looked at him with disdain. How I train my beasts is none of your business. You can slowly be jealous. It would be best if you get internal injuries from jealousy. Junior, go and die. Immortal Laihua was really angry when he heard this. So boring. Who wants to fight with you? Yu Yang soared into the sky. His speed was so fast that he instantly surpassed immortal Lai Hua, who was 1,000 meters tall. He stopped at a height of about 2,000 meters and waved at immortal Lai Hua with his back to the dark and weird clouds. Before I leave, as a junior, I will kindly remind you out of good manners and good manners. Senior, it's time for you to take your medicine. However, you can't eat too many retarded pills. Just a few pills every time. You can't eat them like rice. Immortal Lai Hua was so angry that his whole body was trembling. He pressed his hands together. The dark clouds immediately flared up like fire and flowed like boiling water. Thousands of huge meteorites flew out from the dark clouds, leaving streaks of black and red trails behind them as they bombarded towards Yu Yang. The group of burning meteorites was like a rain of fire. Yu Yang was smashed into it. Supreme Lai Hua put his hands together and gathered all the meteorites together, turning them into a seamless meteorite ball. The volcano whale in the sea of fire leaped high, raised its head, and opened its mouth, swallowing the meteorite ball. Its attack and immortal Lai Hua's coordination was extremely good. However, what it swallowed was only Yu Yang's illusion. Yu Yang's real body was already higher in the sky. He raised the Tao Tai blade and slashed down with his ultimate move, Earth-Splitting Slash. His target was not the extremely huge volcano whale, but the weird-faced fisherman who was being beaten by the chaotic spirits. Before the cold sword energy arrived, it had already split the sea of fire and created a huge crack that was 1,000 meters long. The fisherman cried out strangely as a ball of fire burst out from his body to protect himself. Then, he swung his flaming tentacles, sending out a dazzling ball of light that made people unable to open their eyes, intending to disrupt Yu Yang's heavy chop. Yu Yang's ultimate move suddenly stopped. The one who was really in charge of the killing was Grey Wolf, who had been silently accumulating strength and returning to his best state. It flew over from the side and plunged into the sea of fire, lifting up the entire body of the fisherman inside the flame shield. When Yu Yang's Tao Tai blade recovered and split the fire shield, Grey Wolf suddenly turned around and tore open the fisherman's belly, which was the weakest part of the fisherman's defense. How dare you? Immortal Lai Hua wouldn't let Yu Yang and Grey Wolf succeed so easily. A super heavy punch caused Grey Wolf's body to contort, and he was sent flying 10,000 meters away. As for Yu Yang, who was holding the Tao Tai blade, he flicked his finger and sent Yu Yang, who was still attacking the fisherman's back, flying. Yu Yang fell into the sea of fire. The moment the volcano whale's giant tail struck him, his entire body bounced up as if he had fallen onto a springboard. Ignoring the pursuit of Supreme Lai Hua, he immediately slashed out with the Tao Tai blade in his hand again. This time, he slashed towards the sky. Second slash. Heaven and earth collapse. The terrifying energy from the saber and sword drew a diagonal cross on the wound that Grey Wolf tore open, further aggravating the damage on the strange-faced fisherman's belly. Blood splashed everywhere. Blood splattered all over the sky and the ground. Immortal Lai Hua, on the other hand, laughed like a madman. The heavily injured fisherman fell into the sea of fire. At first, it rolled and rolled in pain, but it soon returned to normal. The terrifying cross-shaped wound that was dripping with blood and rolled up flesh actually healed in the sea of fire without needing any medicine. When the fisherman swam out of the whirlpool of fire, its belly was abnormally smooth, as if it had never been injured. It had been partly absorbed by the spirit of chaos and heavily injured by Yu Yang and Grey Wolf. But now, with the help of the sea of fire, it had completely recovered. It was even stronger and more vigorous than before. Ha! You are really a little kid who lives under the protection of adults. Do you think that all the places in the world are like the swaddling clothes you used to live in? Without the protection of the adults behind you, you are nothing at all. Let me tell you, in this sea of fire, in my domain, all of my beasts are immortal existences. No matter how much damage they suffer, they will recover instantly. Even if they die in battle, they could be easily resurrected. Do you know why I spent thousands of years to build this sea of fire? The reason is very simple. Because I want to build an immortal world of fire. Here, I am invincible. Immortal Lai-Hua laughed complacently. Woof woof. Gray Wolf barked at Yu Yang in a low voice, indicating that he had tried his best just now. It was not that he didn't try his best, but that this guy was too abnormal. So, it is not a sea of fire domain, but a kind of fire attribute reignition domain. As long as it is a fire attribute beast, it can continuously recover in this sea of fire-type domain. Yu Yang finally saw through the power of immortal Lai-Hua's domain with his heaven eyes divine vision. So what if you understand? Because of the abnormal energy in this world of fire, everyone who enters, no matter how powerful they are, must wait until the day the energy is transferred before they can leave. Do you know when the next energy transfer will take place? It is almost 2 months later. With such a long time, do you think you can still escape from my fingers? I was just testing your ability just now. Next is the real hell attack. As soon as immortal Lai-Hua finished speaking, the energy in his body increased by at least 10 times. Just the burst of energy alone could send Gray Wolf flying thousands of meters away. Yu Yang used the Tao Tai blade to resist and slowly moved back 300 meters. Only the chaotic spirit with the super elemental body stayed where it was without feeling anything. Immortal Lai-Hua used his hand to draw a huge fire rune array with a diameter of 10,000 meters on the surface of the sea of fire. When Yu Yang saw this array, he immediately frowned. This was not the rune array he was familiar with, but a very special and strange ancient rune array. With the energy of the sea of fire as the source, the rune array was completed and immediately burst out an irresistible power. Even though Gray Wolf and Yu Yang resisted, they were instantly suppressed to the surface of the sea of fire. Every meter they moved, they felt that the power of the power was doubled. What kind of rune array was this fire energy ancient rune array? Yu Yang felt that if he didn't find out the core principle, the truth, and the flaws, he wouldn't be able to leave the surface of the sea of fire smoothly. With the strength of immortal Lai-Hua, the volcano whale, and the fisherman fish, fighting against them on the surface of the sea of fire was simply asking for trouble. Gray Wolf was also anxious. It couldn't fly, and if it only relied on its 4 legs, it would be at a disadvantage if it fought against the huge monsters. It hurriedly ran to Yu Yang's side, hoping that he would kick it and use some energy to become bigger. It would be best if he could transfer a little bit of the power of law to it, so that it could kill that wretched-looking fisherman fish. However, Yu Yang didn't do that. Instead, he seriously considered for a few seconds. In the end, he quietly threw a ball of special flames into Hui Tai Lang's mouth. In this sea of raging flames, his movements were inconspicuous. Besides, immortal Lai-Hua didn't think highly of an opponent who was about to die. He just threw out a flame portal and summoned more war beasts to clean up the enemy. What immortal Lai-Hua was looking at now was not even Gray Wolf, who was said to be the best combination in the world, but the chaotic spirit who was not affected by the fire rune array. If only she wasn't a guardian war beast. Immortal Lai-Hua sighed in his heart more than once. The war beast that he dreamed of was right in front of him. Unfortunately, it didn't belong to him, and he could never obtain it in any way. This was probably the greatest regret in life. Chapter 887. Just as the volcano whale and the fisherman fish were about to attack Yu Yang, his figure suddenly disappeared. The rune circle flickered and the pressure increased greatly. However, it could only lock on Gray Wolf. The real target, Yu Yang, had disappeared without a trace. The spirit of chaos swung the flame tornado controlled by its will and sucked in the burning Gray Wolf. Then, together with the spinning flame tornado, they rose into the sky. Under the incredulous gaze of perfected cultivator Lai-Hua, he broke through the dense black clouds and disappeared within. It was not that Supreme Lai-Hua did not work hard, but he used his momentum several times, and the rune circle also exerted more than 10 times the pressure. It was as if the spirit of chaos and Gray Wolf did not exist. It did not work at all. The escape of Grey Wolf and the spirit of chaos was not what surprised it the most. After all, both of them were fire elemental beings, and the fire rune circle could not exert its full power on fire elemental beings. After all, the energy source of the rune circle was fire energy. What made Supreme Lihua feel the most inconceivable was that where did that young and arrogant boy go? He was an ice attribute warrior, which happened to be the opposite of the rune circle's attribute. He should have been under the greatest pressure. How could he escape? Besides, even if he could escape, how could he hide from his eyes and senses? Supreme Lihua was puzzled. He expanded his domain with his will and searched the entire space, but still found nothing. It was as if that arrogant boy had never appeared. He disappeared, completely disappeared. Find him for me. As long as he is still in the flame world, he will not be able to escape my pursuit. Supreme Lihua was really angry. The volcano whale and the fisherman fish, as well as the several fire war beasts that were just summoned, they all went in different directions to search for traces of Yu Yang. Supreme Lihua also summoned a Heaven Stage Level 3 Flaming Condor and ordered it to penetrate the black clouds to chase after the Spirit of Chaos and Grey Wolf. The Spirit of Chaos was a guardian war beast and could not be contracted. It was useless even if he desired it. However, Grey Wolf was still an excellent choice for Supreme Lihua. With the addition of Grey Wolf, Supreme Lihua's strength would greatly increase. At this time, Yu Yang was leading Grey Wolf and the chaotic spirit through the dark clouds. There was a strange feeling in his heart that made Yu Yang persevere in moving upwards in the dark clouds. Although he had already found the opponent's flaw and also observed the truth of the flame rune circle with his heaven eyes divine vision, Yu Yang did not stop and counterattacked Lord Lihua. When he saw the truth of the flame rune circle, he had a feeling that he wanted to find more secrets of the flame world. When Yu Yang escaped the rune circle and entered the dark clouds, he found that there was a kind of special energy that was faintly breathing him at a place extremely high in the clouds or extremely far away. Perhaps it was not a true call, but a natural response to the flame runic circle. What was that? Could it be that there were more than just dark clouds at the top of the sky of the fiery world? After flying for a long time, suddenly, a bright light appeared in front of Yu Yang, Grey Wolf, and the chaotic spirit. There were endless white clouds in front of them. If Yu Yang looked back, he would see that the dark clouds behind him and the white clouds in front of him were actually very similar. They were both endless sea of clouds, but the color was different. Yu Yang and Grey Wolf felt as if they had passed through some kind of obstacle, but they could not see it at all. Another strange feeling appeared. The closer they got to the sea of white clouds, the more they felt the vastness of the water energy. The chaotic spirit stopped flying with a little rejection. She saw that Yu Yang had no intention to return to the sea of black clouds, so she immediately returned to his grimoire world and refused to go forward, as if she hated the sea of white clouds in front of her. Not to mention her, even Grey Wolf felt a little uncomfortable. It was as if it had fallen into a pool of water and was drenched all over like a drowning dog. Of course, that was just a feeling. Yu Yang gave it a kick and signaled it to follow them, and not be as willful as the chaotic spirit. One human and one wolf flew forward at an extremely fast speed, trying to find out the truth. Why was there a place with such abundant water energy in the fiery world? It was like passing through the dark clouds. Yu Yang and Grey Wolf were also very tired, and they finally came out of the sea of white clouds. The scene that came into Yu Yang's eyes shocked him, and he almost cried out in surprise. It turned out that he, who had been flying towards the sky, suddenly found himself in another world, a world of water that only had water. It was completely different from the fiery world where Supreme Lihua was. This world was full of vitality. The water surface was full of green aquatic plants, and there were also countless kinds of insects flying around. From time to time, there were silver fish jumping out of the water and playing with each other. In this boundless space, all Yu Yang could see was water. Yu Yang and Grey Wolf turned around and looked up. The firmament in the sky was filled with white clouds. Boundless white clouds, extremely far away, It seemed that a light rain had just fallen, and there was a rainbow hanging in the distance. The two completely different worlds of fire and water were actually fused together. The most ingenious thing was that these two worlds that were incompatible with each other actually fused together at the same time. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed it to be true. What kind of world is this? Yu Yang stepped on the surface of the lake and found that the water energy here was abundant, and it was not inferior to the sea of fire in the fiery world. This is the hourglass world. Fire is on one side, water is on the other. Every 3 months, the hourglass world will undergo energy conversion. Of course, the water here and the fire on the other side will not disappear, nor will they exchange, but the position of the space will change. I don't know the specific truth, but in the 10,000 years of boring waiting, I calculated it. There was a pool of clear water on the surface of the water. Transforming into a water person, it seemed to be a female, and it started to speak. The strangest thing was that this female water person was holding a sapphire blue umbrella. This umbrella was a semi-god ranked item. With one look, Yu Yang had a feeling that the female water person holding this semi-god treasured umbrella should not be weaker than Lord Laihua. Yu Yang changed his attitude towards Lord Laihua. "Senior, are you the beautiful Luo fairy from back then?" This junior is Titan Yu, a descendant of the soaring dragon continent. The female water person holding the treasured umbrella had her identity exposed by Yu Yang. Her expression seemed a little astonished, but she quickly returned to normal. "I didn't expect that there would still be someone who remembers my name after so long. Is Tong Tian Tower so prosperous now? A young lad like you actually has the strength of an elder innate. This is really too amazing." Grey Wolf turned his head and covered his mouth as he snickered. There was only one person like Yu Yang in the whole of Tong Tian Tower, and he was the only one that could not be found in 10,000 years. If it wasn't for Yu Yang that could be used to scare those fellows from Heaven Realm, the current Tong Tian Tower would definitely be despised to death by the warriors from Heaven Realm. However, Yu Yang glared at him angrily, hinting him not to be rude. Grey Wolf hurriedly held back his laughter, trying his best to suppress it, trying his best not to burst out laughing. Towards that beautiful Luo fairy's question, Yu Yang pretended to be very obedient. "That's right, the current Tong Tian Tower is very prosperous. Young people like me are as common as the hairs on a cow. Those unlucky fellows from Heaven Realm described us like this. Geniuses are as common as dogs, and elder innates are everywhere. I'm still a little better now. I was considered trash in my family in the past. Because my improvement was too slow, people rolled their eyes at me for many years." Yu Yang's bragging had no limits, but if he tried to bluff people, he would become lame. Hearing this, the waterman holding the umbrella heaved a long sigh. "I didn't expect Tong Tian Tower to be so prosperous now. In the past, the Demon Clan and Heaven Stairway warriors always made life difficult for us soaring dragon people. We fought for many years, and many young geniuses were sacrificed in the battle. When our generation was annihilated and no longer existed, the Tong Tian Tower warriors learned their lesson and really flourished. It's a pity that I'm trapped in this hourglass world and can never leave. Otherwise, I would really like to see such a grand occasion." Yu Yang immediately seized the topic. "Senior, with such a powerful existence like you, can't you break through the space of this hourglass world?" The waterman holding the umbrella shook his head. "This is a punishment given to me by the ancient ancestors. The fight between me and that fool, true monarch Laihua, caused serious consequences and almost destroyed the entire soaring dragon continent. An ancient ancestor was furious when he heard about it. During our 1985th battle, he appeared. He destroyed Lord Laihua and my physical bodies, and threw us into this hourglass world, using this kind of imprisonment to punish us for the evil that we caused. And here, there's only the extreme balance of water and fire. Lord Laihua and I can never meet each other, and we can never fight again. Of course, we can never leave this hourglass world either. Young man, although I don't know which senior told you about us, I want to give you a piece of advice. This is not a safe world. Lord Lai Hua is an ambitious tyrant. He hates everything, especially an outstanding young man like you. He will never let you go. Lord Lai Hua, if you're talking about that manic fireman, I've already seen him. He's indeed very powerful, but he's limited by the sea of fire. Although I can't beat him, I can still escape. Yu Yang smiled. I didn't expect you to go to his side first and fight with him before coming here. Young man, you're an ice-type warrior. You shouldn't be able to leave that fire world, right? And this demon wolf, it should be the world-destroying demon wolf, right? It's so friendly with you, why don't you contract it? You should know that the effect of contracting a divine beast is sometimes more useful than cultivating yourself. The waterman holding the umbrella looked at Hui Tai Lang, who was swimming in the water, and asked curiously, "A contract is good, but won't be free." Yu Yang waved his hand. "I have enough beasts, I don't need it." "You have so many beasts that you can't even contract a divine beast?" The waterman holding the umbrella was shocked when he heard this. There's still a lot of space, but there might be better choices in the future. Yu Yang was a little embarrassed to say that he wouldn't contract beasts unless they were beautiful women in front of a senior who had lived for tens of thousands of years. Of course, he was already used to lying, so he casually found an excuse. "You're ambitious. Are there really many young people like you? This is too inconceivable. My heart has a kind of shock that I have never felt before. I have never heard of a person unexpectedly not contracting a mythological beast. All right, young man, how many divine beasts do you have?" The waterman holding the umbrella was stunned when he heard Yu Yang's casual reply. He didn't even notice that his semi-god treasured umbrella had fallen into the water. Finally, after a long time, he murmured, "How many divine beasts do you really have? I was one of the top 10 people in Tong Tian Tower back then, but I didn't even have a single divine beast. How many do you really have?" Yu Yang scratched the back of his head embarrassedly. "I do have a few, and a few of them have the potential to become divine beasts. Because they were nurtured properly, it's not a problem for them to become divine beasts." This Hui Tai Lang was the first to become a divine beast, but because he didn't have much to take care of later on, and because the beasts after him had different opportunities, their strength increased very quickly, causing his strength to lag behind. The waterman was dumbfounded. "I can't believe it. Unless you summon another one." Yu Yang usually wouldn't brag like this. He showed off his strength today, mainly because he had something to ask this awesome senior, so he behaved very obediently, as if he was born a good child. Hui Tai Lang naturally cooperated with his master, and pretended to be pay attention. "I'm a good wolf." When Yu Yang summoned little Wen Li, the Lamia lowly, from the grimoire world, the waterman, who was most likely the beautiful Luo fairy senior, immediately cried out, "This is a transcending divine beast. Heavens, is this something you were born with? Impossible. How could you have a transcending divine beast? Who are you exactly? No, you're not from Tong Tian Tower. You should be from that legendary race." Chapter 888. Hearing this, Yu Yang was speechless. This beautiful Luo fairy, who was not immersed in the messy information circulating in Tong Tian Tower, was able to judge his identity more clearly than ordinary warriors. Of course, no matter what she guessed, Yu Yang would not admit it. Whether she could get out or not, he had to keep his secret. Moreover, Yu Yang became more vigilant. The warriors in Heaven Realm and the people from the Central Shrine were also not deceived by the identity of Yu Clan's third young master. Were they investigating him? Especially the people from the Central Shrine, it would be very convenient for them to investigate something in Heaven Realm. It seemed that he had to be more careful in the future. He could not let his identity issue repeat the same mistake. The ancient Demon King would definitely not cause trouble, but there was still the Scarlet Emperor. It would be better if the Scarlet Emperor hid his identity and lived in seclusion, not being discovered by the people from the Central Shrine. Yu Yang was more worried about whether the Scarlet Emperor knew the clown, and whether the clown had connections with the traders of Tong Tian Tower or the Wing clan of the Guangming continent. If there was, his identity issue would be exposed sooner or later. Once his identity was exposed, it would be equivalent to announcing the rise of Tong Tian Tower. He believed that the people from the central shrine would attack Tong Tian Tower and kill him. It seemed that he had to hurry. Before the central shrine paid attention to Tong Tian Tower, before he passed the 10th trial, before Queen Vivian Li broke the black hole seal, Yu Yang did not want the central shrine to discover his secret. Although Tong Tian Tower was rising, it was like a seed that had just sprouted. Before it grew into a towering tree, it could not withstand any storm. I am a disciple of the Yu clan, one of the 4 great clans in the Soaring Dragon continent. Yu Yang bowed and introduced himself like a normal disciple protecting his family's honor. The 4 great clans in the Soaring Dragon continent? I have only heard of the 4 great clans in Heaven Realm. The Waterman smiled. Yu Yang pretended to be speechless. In reality, it was certain that this beautiful silk fairy had never heard of the 4 great clans of the Soaring Dragon continent. It would be strange if she had. Perhaps it had sensed the displeasure on Yu Yang's face, but the Waterman with the umbrella waved its hand in an apologetic manner. I have no intention of offending your family. Even though it can't compare to the 4 great families of the Heaven Realm, it's still quite an extraordinary family to be able to nurture a family as exceptional as you. Young man, can you tell me why you have come to this hourglass world? Yu Yang perked up when he heard this. It was time for serious business. At least this senior believed that he was a descendant of the Soaring Dragon continent. If she believed that he was from the Heaven Realm, then it would be terrible. Without her cooperation, it would definitely be difficult. Yu Yang hurriedly bowed and said with sincerity, "Senior, it's like this. I came here under the guidance of several seniors to find the truth about the Burial Sword Valley. Does Senior know Granny Shah? Other than Solomon, there's also Wind Master and Rain Master." The Waterman with the umbrella shook its head and waved its hand. "I don't know them. Perhaps the 3 people you mentioned are my descendants." She briefly told him what happened with perfected Lord Lihua back then. Back then, for the sake of the 6 divine weapons that venerable buried sword had spent his entire life to create, true monarch Lihua did not stop attracting the experts of the Heaven Realm to forcefully break the defensive formation of Berry Sword Valley and attack Berry Sword Villa. In order to repel the enemies, my husband sacrificed his life to unleash the greatest power of the divine weapons 5-God Clock and 6-God Seal, killing 2 Heaven Realm great leaders on the spot. After the enemies retreated, I successfully captured the heavily injured Lihua Supreme. At that time, Lord Lihua deceived me and my allies by pretending to be remorseful. In order to resolve this enmity, I released Lord Lihua and banished him out of the realm. I didn't expect him to make a comeback so quickly. At that time, apart from my husband who died in battle, no one else could successfully use the 6 divine weapons. Furthermore, the 5 divine bells disappeared after my husband died in battle, so they could no longer form the strongest defensive formation to defend against the enemy. The enemy attacked and broke in. The ranker Tianyu from the central shrine and his disciple Jiwuri stole the 4 divine armor from the 6 divine equipment. Another unknown ranker from the Heaven Realm stole the 3 divine mirrors. When more enemies were preparing to divide the 1 divine sword, the 2 divine staffs, and the 6 divine seals, a hidden ranker from the Tong Tian Tower was enraged. He used an extraordinary divine equipment, 5-color divine light, to kill more than half of the 3,000 enemies. In the end, due to some unknown reason, he triggered a lightning tribulation. That hidden ranker used the 5-color divine light to resist the lightning tribulation. In the end, the 5-color divine light shattered and scattered all over the Dragon continent. Are the 5-color divine lights really scattered all over the Soaring Dragon continent? Yu Yang asked anxiously. This information was too important to him. I'm not too sure about this. Maybe some were found and stolen by the rankers from the Heaven Realm. However, I did see the divine equipment scatter and turn into streaks of light. Because the ancient god was alerted, and because the battle was so intense that it threatened to destroy the earth, the ancient god divided the entire Berry Sword Manor into different spaces to break down different destructive powers. I don't know what happened to the other warriors, but both I and Supreme Lai were sealed in this world. After countless years of observation, I finally understood that this world is like an hourglass. Fire is on one side, water is on the other, and then it changes in 3 months. The beautiful silk fairy who was holding the umbrella smiled. At that time, I indeed had the thought of killing Lord Lai Hua, even if I had to destroy the whole world. If I didn't feel despair, maybe things wouldn't have turned out like this. I can understand. Moreover, the soaring dragon continent wasn't destroyed. Yu Yang comforted her. Actually, he guessed that the soaring dragon continent had been destroyed more than once. It was just that after each destruction, new rankers would rebuild it, bringing it back to glory. Because I was imprisoned here for tens of thousands of years, I knew nothing about the outside world. Moreover, my body and treasures were destroyed, leaving behind only this umbrella that I made with my own hands. The beautiful silk fairy who was holding the umbrella closed the sapphire blue divine equipment and handed it to Yu Yang. Young man, I'll give this umbrella to you. Although it's not a divine equipment, it's still a good treasure. It's a waste to leave it here. If I give it to an outstanding young man like you, it might be of some use. No, I can't accept your treasured umbrella. Yu Yang immediately refused. Meow meow. Hui Tai Lang was dumbfounded. Why did Master change his personality today? Why wouldn't he accept a treasure that was delivered to him? This umbrella is really a waste for me. I'm giving it to you because I want to find a successor for myself. I won't be able to leave this world for the rest of my life. Other than not having a successor to inherit my legacy, I have no regrets. I hope that you can find an outstanding female successor on my behalf so that she can inherit my legacy. The beautiful silk fairy handed the umbrella over for the second time. Yu Yang still waved his hand. We can talk about finding a successor later. I might not be able to find a successor that will satisfy you. When I find a suitable candidate in the future, I'll bring her here. It won't be too late for you to pass on your legacy to her then. The beautiful silk fairy nodded slightly. I understand what you're thinking. However, I don't want my successor to enter this hourglass world. Even if she becomes my successor, she might be imprisoned here forever. That would be useless. Actually, I've recorded everything in this beautiful silk umbrella. If the beautiful silk umbrella approves of someone, she will be my successor. There's no need for me to bring her here. I also don't need to meet my successor. All the etiquette in this world is meaningless. As long as she can inherit my power and knowledge, she will have some achievements in the future. That's already my greatest hope. Yu Yang was perplexed, and he asked, "You don't want her to come here?" The beautiful silk fairy smiled. "After you leave, I think I'll fall into a deep slumber again. I'll sleep for 1,000 years, perhaps even 10,000 years. I don't care about anything in this world anymore. All I want is to meet the wisp of my husband's divine sense in my dreams." She was an unfortunate and infatuated woman. This was Yu Yang's evaluation of the beautiful silk fairy. Of course, this misfortune didn't originate from her own body. Instead, it came from the 6 divine tools left behind by the enlightened master of the Sword Burial Mountain. Yu Yang hesitated for a long while before accepting the beautiful silk fairy's umbrella, as well as this heavy responsibility. He didn't know who the beautiful silk umbrella would approve of, but there were so many outstanding beauties here, so there had to be one that was suitable. He thought about it for a while longer. Just as the beautiful silk fairy was about to sink into the water, Yu Yang extended a hand to stop her. "I've come here for 2 things. Originally, there was only one divine tool, but after hearing the truth about the Sword Burial Mountain Valley, I felt that it was necessary for you to appraise it. I've obtained 3 divine tools. Please take a look and see if this is one of the 6 divine tools of the Sword Burial Mountain Valley." Little One Li understood Yu Yang's intentions, so she revealed the Prison Emperor Divine Seal that Yu Yang had never been able to obtain true approval from. 6 Divine Seal? The beautiful silk fairy was stunned when she saw it. Is this one of the 6 divine tools, the Divine Seal? Yu Yang's eyes lit up. I don't know what happened in the past tens of thousands of years, but this divine tool has undergone many changes. Perhaps it has gone through countless battles, or perhaps it has evolved and mutated. It's almost completely different from before. The beautiful silk fairy stretched out her watery arms and fingers, just like a mother caressing her precious baby. She gently caressed the prison emperor divine seal, her eyes filled with love. No matter what it has become, I can be sure that it is one of the 6 divine weapons. In the past, my husband used it to kill the heaven realm great leaders. Now we call it the prison emperor divine seal. It is an illusion of a senior called the prison emperor. This senior used it and the other 2 divine tools to defeat a strong enemy when Tong Tian Tower was on the brink of death. Only then did we have the Tong Tian Tower today. Yu Yang was relieved now. It wasn't that the prison emperor divine seal wasn't powerful enough. It was just that he hadn't used its full power yet. This divine seal could indeed kill the heaven realm great leaders. Later on, the prison emperor used the 3 divine tools to seal the 3 heaven realm great leaders. This could also be used to prove history. If he could obtain the true approval of this divine tool and use its full power, then what about the heaven realm great leaders? What would that arrogant Jiwari have to fear? Since the prison emperor divine seal was one of the 6 divine tools, things would be easy. Yu Yang summoned Princess Sisai and Shui Wuxia from the grimoire world to greet the beautiful silk fairy, the senior from tens of thousands of years ago. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.